Imagine, if you will,
Ordinary podcast hosts, caught in the strange and surreal web of the Twilight Zone. Their only escape? To navigate through a labyrinth of classic episodes. Their reality has become a jigsaw puzzle of bewildering paradoxes and cryptic clues, with each piece being a classic episode that they must analyze and understand, and determine whether or not it belongs on your shelf.
our hosts must confront the shadows of their own imaginations. Each episode a piece of the puzzle, each discussion a step closer to freedom. Their escape hinges on unraveling the mysteries of two classic episodes. Welcome to Shelf Life. Tonight we are not just discussing the Twilight Zone, we are living it. And our escape depends on the stories we explore.
No. Okay, so here's the thing. This is how we're starting, because when you take this entire volume as a whole, you were absolutely right.
Yeah.
You needed something slightly more lighthearted.
Yeah.
I am Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast where brother and sister team go through all things pop culture, no matter the genre, to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, be that digital or physical. And it's becoming even more and more important, Rachel, in this world, to know whether or not something has shelf life so you can get your own version of it. If we've learned anything so far through Volume 4, that has been the lesson. And you were right, as we talked about before we did the intro, we needed some levity with Paddington.
We did.
Because, you go back and you look at what we've covered in Volume 4 here, and yeah, there's some lightheartedness for sure. But there is a lot of grim, nihilistic stuff.
That's right.
In Volume 4. None more so, probably, well, I guess that arguably, than this, the second half of the main event of Volume 4. Rachel, what is up for contention to the shelf today?
Today we will be talking about the Twilight Zone, Season 1, Episodes 7 and 8, The Lonely, and Time Enough at Last.
Yes, two heavy hitter episodes of the Twilight Zone. These are considered some of the in the oeuvre of the oeuvre in all the catalog of Twilight Zone episodes, the 160 of them, or however the hell many there are. These two are up there on people's, oh yes, I remember those. And like we said, it's not exactly that either one of these end in the most lighthearted manner, I would say.
Yeah.
So you go back, and for those of you that are new, go back to the rest of through Volume 4 and check them out. Some nostalgia is in there, some loneliness, some isolation, some quest for time to be able to do those things that people want to do.
Quest for time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
It's a lot of themes, a lot of layers came, and
this whole season's just full of layers. This whole volume.
It is like an onion. It is definitely onion-esque.
Oh, I don't know if we're to onions just yet.
Oh, is that a hint for something that could be coming in Volume 5, Rachel?
Potentially. I don't know.
So,
Parfaits, onions, we'll see what happens.
So, the overall idea here, I would say, is that if you go back and you look at anything that we've done in Volume 4, you could say that, hey, there's things that definitely could have been the main event. What X-Men, E.T., I would even consider potentially Animal Farm or some of these other things that we've covered could have been the big finale to Volume 4. It just means that this is the last thing that we're covering because it ties it all together in a bow. So we're tying it all together in the bow with The Lonely and with Time Enough at Last. We are going to start with The Lonely.
Yes.
Rachel, what happens in The Lonely, and do you remember ever seeing this episode?
I didn't remember it when I was going to watch it, and then I was like, but it felt familiar. So at the same time of probably not remembering the first time I've watched it, or like any time like between now and then, I had a familiarity with it. So I was like, something seems familiar, but at the same time, like, but it could be referenced. It could be all of those types of things. Because this one is very interesting. It's about a convict who is on an asteroid by himself and kind of just seeing how we end up living with him, like how he lives with it.
Yeah, it's about his loneliness.
Yes.
And there's a first act or second act twist about somebody gifts him something to help with his loneliness, and then the final twist, of course. Folks, for both of these episodes, if you have not seen them, I would probably say, watch them first if you don't know what the twists are, because we're gonna spoil them.
We're gonna go through everything, obviously.
And especially if you're new, but if you're not new, you know the score of how we do this. But I would probably say watch them and check them out first if you haven't. We have the links of where you can see them,
of course,
in the description of the episode. But maybe you want to watch this first just to get the twist in, to get your true reaction from it before you hear us talk about it. This one, I think, Rachel, and I could be totally wrong about this, I feel like Futurama has done both of these. Has parodied both of these with the scary door.
I would say
I want to say, I feel like I vividly remember something with Futurama of it being like, oh, it's a robot, and then it being like, oh, it's not a robot, it's a such and such. And then, like, do you remember that? Where, like, I, like, feel like there was, like, a twist.
Well, yes. I agree.
Like that in the
especially
scary
considering
door.
they say robot.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since
Which
I
is the
remember
proper
that.
way to say it. The proper way to say it is robot. That is the correct
It's the best. It's the best
English
way to
pronunciation. Say it. I love that they say
not a bot,
that.
it's a bit.
It is. It's a robot. And I know for a fact that they did Time Enough at Last. That one,
course,
and
yes.
Family Guy's parodies of it. And I'm guessing The Simpsons has allusions to these two episodes as well, but I don't quite remember those. But I definitely remember Futurama's. I remember watching this one when I did my first watch through of the Twilight Zone, and I don't quite remember my reaction to it, other than I knew that people knew this one, that this was like a classic one of them.
Sure.
But the question is, even though people remember it, does it hold up? Does it have shelf life? So let's get right into it. This is The Lonely. It was directed by Jack Smite, written by Rod Serling. It debuted on November 13th, 1959. Rachel, would you like to give us the opening narration to The Lonely, as is tradition since last episode? When we were like, oh, let's do Rod Serling impressions, that'll be fun.
I think we did it every time.
I can't remember. It's been a while. We're stuck in the Twilight Zone, so it's been quite a while between volumes here.
Witness, if you will, a dungeon made out of mountains, salt flats, and sand that stretch to infinity. The dungeon has an... Don't laugh. You can't laugh. The dungeon has an inmate, James A. Corey, and this is his residence. A metal shack, an old touring car that squats in the sun and goes nowhere, for there is nowhere to go. For the record, let it be known that James A. Corey is a convicted criminal placed in solitary confinement. Confinement, in this case, stretches as far as the eye can see, because this particular dungeon is on an asteroid 9 million miles from the Earth. Now witness, if you will, a man's mind and body shriveling in the sun. A man dying of loneliness.
Thank you. Very nice. So yes, that was a long narration.
It was.
So this is this episode is totally about loneliness and isolation, and that is the topic at hand. It's exactly what it sounds like. A deserted area.
Desert wasteland, almost.
So they shot this in Death Valley.
Yes.
I think if it was an asteroid, it really wouldn't be like this, because asteroids don't have an atmosphere. So they could not do that. But let's go with it.
I mean, you kind of think it's like a different planet. Even if it was just a different planet, and they were like, you have to stay in your section. And like they have like different sections put out for people or something just to make them feel alone and isolated, it would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like they give them their own... It's like they almost get their own asteroid in an asteroid field or something,
yes,
and that's why they, like,
that's
can't...
what it is.
Yeah. They filmed this in Death Valley. The trivia on this one says that the shoot was terrible. The crew was not prepared for how hot it was going to be.
That sucks.
So the director of photography collapsed, and they thought that he was having a heart attack,
Oh my
and it was
God.
heat exhaustion. The sweat that you see on all of them is fake because the sweat would evaporate so quickly.
Oh, jeez.
So they had to use glycerin so that it looks like they're all sweaty, but it's actually glycerin because it was evaporating so quickly. And then they ended up shooting all of the shack scenes in MGM because they were like, we can't go inside a building out here. It's too goddamn hot.
Right.
And it makes sense, right? Because it's the 50s. So, like, everyone's probably wearing a goddamn 5-piece suit.
Oh, yeah, they're wearing
and smoking
suits.
cigarettes.
They got
and
those
just
ties
not,
all the way up to their neck.
Just not in a position to be shooting in a desert.
Right.
So we start with James Corey, who is portrayed... Rachel, did you recognize him?
No?
Should I? He's making his second appearance on Shelf Life.
Okay.
It is Jack Warden as Corey. Jack Warden was your marmalade salesman in 12 Angry Men.
He really is. You're right. Yep. Yep. It's 100%.
Crazy that this man was 39 when this movie came out. Doesn't he look like he's like 50 years old?
Yeah. Yeah.
God, they lived hard back then.
Absolutely.
So we get this picture of his life while he's there.
Well, first off, he slams on the horn of the car. Does Rod Serling have a thing about, like, honking horns this season? Because I feel like it happens in, like, almost every episode now that I'm, like, putting them together.
It's a good way to get your audience's attention, right?
Like wake them up for a second?
I don't know if they're paying
Bit of
any
a jump
attention.
scare?
Let's honk that horn. Yeah, it's a jump scare. It's definitely a jump
The
scare.
50s jump scare.
Yeah,
Honk the
it's
horn.
like the parrot in Citizen Kane, where it just comes on screen for no reason and goes, nah! This is that, where it's like, honk the horn, make sure that they're paying attention. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of horn honking.
There's a lot of horns.
There's a horn honking in the next episode, too.
That's why I had to say it.
Folks at home, is there some sort of horn honking fetish in the Twilight Zone
I don't want to
we're
go that
unaware
far.
of?
I don't want to go that far.
Or just, like, is it what I'm thinking, where they're trying to get the audience's attention, so they honk the horn? I did not think about that. Yeah, in a parked car. In a
parked
single
car.
Case. Yeah. How peculiar. The
car.
real connection is they're all honking the horn.
It's the car.
So yes, you see that there's nothing around. There's this empty wasteland. Again, if I had he just needs some Wi-Fi, right? He just needs an electrical outlet, some Wi-Fi.
Sure.
He'd be fine.
Yeah, I
he
mean,
would
if he has
be
books,
fine.
You know, if you have a bunch of books.
He's got some books.
Maybe
some books.
if he could garden, but I don't know how well gardening works on an asteroid. That could be nice.
Yeah, he could make the aforementioned poo potato.
Make some poo potatoes.
We should have that technology by this point.
I would
if
assume.
we're on asteroids.
You know, come on.
Yeah.
Poo potatoes. It's going to take a lot of time for you to, like, tend your garden, and then you read some books, and, you know, maybe exercise a little bit.
I need to go out.
You could
I
do
need to
some
go out back
exercising.
and tend that garden. You know. give me a magazine so while I tend the garden.
God dang it.
It feels like there should be some stuff, but at the same time, you know, the reality is, if you are completely isolated like this, even the people that are horribly terminally online, I think they would eventually be like, I feel very isolated. I would feel very isolated at some point.
Right.
Even though I think I could make it better than a lot of people. I think I could make it better than a lot of people. If I had access to television and movies and books and stuff.
You give me enough yarn, I'm good to go.
Yeah. You give me the Shelf Life shelf.
Oh, yeah, that too.
We'll be fine.
Yeah. Books, yarn, shelf life. I'm good to go.
Don't remember if they say it in this or not. I know in the trivia it says this is the year 2046. So hopefully in 20 years we'll have... Yeah.
Yeah, that's not far.
The ability to...
They're gonna be shipping people off to asteroids, I guess.
If only. So, he enters a diary. It's a little Minority Report too at the end.
Oh yeah,
you know?
a little bit. It is.
He enters a diary stating that he has been there for 4 years and 6 months, and a supply ship will be there soon. A supply ship comes by every 3 months to get him food and stuff. What he's done in the meantime is he has put together a car from parts that were brought by, what's the guy's name? Allenby? I think is the name of...
I think that's what he says like a million times, Allenby.
Yeah.
I didn't have the captions on, so I'm not entirely sure.
Pretty sure it's Allenby. It's like his guard, I guess.
It's kind of like his parole officer type of person.
Yeah.
He brings the supplies, he chats with him, and then he leaves.
Yeah. And you can tell that guy must think that this is almost a cruel and unusual punishment for him.
Absolutely.
So over the course of time, he's brought him parts to fix up or like build a car. So he's done that, and to do something. So like he's been able to do that. You'd think that if he was able to like build the car out of part, like maybe he didn't give him an engine to drive around, because like that would have been the first thing you'd do, right?
Oh yeah, he probably just doesn't have any gas. There's probably just nothing that he can actually use for like fuel.
That's true. That's actually a really good point. You can't like drive out and then you end up stuck out in this desert, and because then you'd probably just die.
That's also true. I mean, the horn works, so like I guess maybe the battery's good, you know?
Yeah. It's an old touring car is what Serling
I think
calls
that's what
it.
they say. Yeah. I know nothing about cars. The horn might work without a battery, it might work without an engine. I have no idea.
Yeah. So and he lives in this little shack, this Sideshow Bob blowing up Springfield shack, this groundskeeper Willie shack.
I mean, yeah, it definitely looks like it's made of tin, right?
Yes.
It's like tin siding.
So it's got to be like
but they have like these ones like little girders that have like circles in them, like ooh, future. So I think that's what they were doing.
He has a refrigerator.
It's got a nice big window though that opens up.
Yeah, if it was a nice landscape, it would be something.
It's interesting.
They'd sell this house on HGTV for like $2 million.
That's true. He does have a
Look
fridge.
At the views. He does have a fridge, so he's got to have some sort of power to have the fridge.
Yeah.
There's nothing but the desert wind, silence, and himself. You end up then seeing a rocket landing, and I thought it was kind of an impressive effect. I think it's just an overlay of a rocket taking off, but they reverse it and they make it look like it's landing. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah, they did a good job.
He hears
it's from afar too, so
right. Well, and it's I'm saying for 1959, it's pretty good.
Absolutely.
And a television budget for that matter.
Right.
He hears it and is excited that people are there, and he starts going crazy. He pulls out a makeshift checkerboard that he's done. He cleans the place a little bit.
He puts some stuff away. He makes sure he has drinks in the fridge.
Like this is his time where friends come over. As someone, Rachel, whose friends are mostly all married and have kids, I end up doing this too, because I see them once every 6 to 9 months because of the fact that they are married and have kids and lives and stuff. So it's the same thing of like, oh good, the friends are coming. Hang on, let me clean the house.
Oh yeah.
And then anytime somebody's
going to come to my house, I get into like a cleaning frenzy. So I understand that.
Yeah, totally get that. So these guys come out. These what do you call somebody that's like a jail guard, like not a warden, but
well, the warden would be like the head. I mean, he's just like just the guard.
Yeah, they're just guards. So these guards come in.
I still wonder if he's like a parole officer.
Or a parole officer.
The way he acts, that's what it just seems
he does
like.
kind of act like
I mean, he's not on
officer.
parole or anything, but that's kind of what it just seems like. He's so excited. And he
he's
sees
very,
them
very
run,
excited.
And he's like running, just yelling Allenby over and over again.
Because it's his only friend, right? And these
it's his only person contact.
These outfits that these spacemen guards wear are ridiculous.
I mean, they're just like full overalls, right?
Yeah.
And football helmets. Like old school football helmets. That's what
we've gotten
like
to the point where
spray-painted metallic because they shine.
Where you don't even need like helmet, like an air helmet.
Oh yeah, there's no.
Wearing an old,
don't worry about it.
Not even a modern day football helmet, like an old leather head football helmet. There's 2 guys that come with Allenby. The one guy is pissed about having to be there.
He's
like, I have to be away from my kids for 8 months to give you
Why do you have this job?
fucking shit.
Why do you have to have this? Why are you in this job? Quit. You're a jackass. Like,
Well, maybe there's a recession on Earth, and this is a steady job for him, Rachel.
oh, okay. Well, does he have to complain at every 2 seconds? Because that's
Yes,
what he
apparently
does.
he
I can't
does.
stand this guy.
There are people that I know that complain about work, and that is their living, is to complain about what they're doing. So that's this guy. He says he gets to live so simply, and I couldn't tell. And I think ultimately he was mocking him because he's like, "You get to live. We have to like travel on this spaceship, and it sucks.
And I
you
have a
get to
family
live."
and all of this stuff.
Yeah, and then he's like, "And you get to live, and you get all this space and all this land and the nature, even though it's like dirt." And that's why I think he was like ultimately mocking him about the fact that like, yeah, I have to travel and get you your shit every 3 months, but you have nothing except dirt. He gets to live so simply. Allenby says that they have to leave in 15 minutes because of something, or they'd have to, or otherwise they'll have to.
Yeah. I wonder if they're just running late, so like they have to only be stopped for 15 minutes, or they can't push off and get to Earth properly because of how it goes into orbit.
It's like some sort of slingshot method that I think they're using.
It does sound that way. And the way that this guy had to, like, explained it, you can tell he didn't understand a word he said, and he just said it. That's how I, like, took
Absolutely.
it when he said it.
Yes. Yes, it is definitely... I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying it. Oh, yeah, Rachel wants to try to do a replication.
If we delay our time, it just places us in a different orbital position.
We've only got a 15-minute layover this time, Corey.
Oh, look, no one's checking on your schedule way out here. We can play a couple of games of cards or something, huh?
I'm sorry, Corey. If we delay our time of departure any longer than 15 minutes, it just places us in a different orbital position. We never make it back to Earth.
It was like the way he went orbital position. It was the way he said it that I was like,
he had to
doesn't know what
remember
he's
that.
saying. Yeah.
It's like in Temple of Doom, where the old Indian man has to speak English, but he doesn't know English.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's just saying everything very phonetically.
Yes.
So it doesn't sound right.
That's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
seems like, yes.
That makes perfect sense. Because why would this actor from 1959 know any of
Think
this?
anything about, like, astronomy or, like, space travel.
And he also says that if they don't leave in 15 minutes, they're going to be there for the next 14 days to be able to leave again. And
Which, honestly, Corey's probably like, yes.
he's like, yeah, let's stay. I've got food. I got drinks. We can hang out. We can party.
Games.
Yeah. So he's all about it. He's trying to get him to stay for the couple weeks. He's freaking out about that. He's like, well, just come on, we'll play one game of cards. Come on. So like, it makes it seem like on a typical basis, Allenby and his people will stay for a few hours.
It seems
They'll play
like
some
it.
cards with him, play some checkers. Like, they spend time with him.
Right. It feels like they give him more time. I wonder if he doesn't usually have to deal with these two others. Are they always there, or does he usually have, like, is it different people he brings with, like different crew? Because these guys just, they're a couple of, they are kind of a piece of work. Like, I get it. They think all of these convicts are convicts and they deserve what they're getting, but they are awful. So I'm like half wondering if he doesn't usually have these two. Like, oh, it's because I have these two, we can only stay for 15 minutes. Otherwise, I probably would have stayed longer.
So he's been there for 4 years and 6 months. I feel like these two are newer because the one guy that's angry about everything says, oh, we've been here for 5 minutes and he still hasn't asked about a pardon. So you know that he's been there at least a couple times, I think, because he's asked about a pardon each time.
Yeah.
But I do think that
I also wonder if that's just typical of everyone. Like, does everybody do that?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you think everyone is doing that, yeah. Because if this is happening to him, it's probably happening to the other convicts as well.
Yeah.
But I do think that you might be right, that these guys are a little more new and the other guys were, like, sticking around. It's all about the timing, too.
Right.
So if they are like, yeah, well, we do have a couple hours, we can stay, and maybe Allenby is trying to be nice to at least the nicer convicts.
It seems that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he is like, okay, we stick around with Corey. We're not going to spend any time with, Manson. We're gonna drop it off and get out of there.
Exactly. But like, I think that might be part of it too. He, has a bias on what Corey did.
Yes. We end up finding out he did murder someone, but Corey claims it was in self-defense. It was in self-defense, and Allenby believes that it was in self-defense. We never find out what it was.
We don't get any details of the case, unfortunately. I mean, maybe this is part of the 12 Angry Men stuff, considering.
Yeah, I think it is. He
murdered
kind of
somebody
like,
after 12 Angry Men happened.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, so I was on this damned jury and I should have known better. Oh, God. I was a marmalade salesman. I sold so much marmalade.
Just so much marmalade. There was this
particular-
bear. There was this bear I would always sell the marmalade to.
This bear couple in Peru bought so much of my marmalade.
They thought I murdered him.
I went out to celebrate one night, and this guy came up to me, and I had to defend myself. That's the story of James
He
Corden.
said he knew Paddington, and I just had to get rid of him.
We never learn his name in 12 Angry Men. It could be the same character.
Could be.
Very possible. He's 125 years old or something, but
You
whatever,
never know.
It's fine. So he is stuck in there for 50 years. So his sentence is 50 years. And Allenby is frustrated with it all. You can tell that he has empathy with Corey's position and that he doesn't like the fact that this is the punishment that Corey has. He thinks it should be a traditional prison.
Yes.
Even if it was a traditional prison on the asteroid itself, where it's like, we're getting rid of all these criminals, but we're going to send them to
But
asteroid
they're kind
M
of
or
like have
whatever.
a community where they kind of get rehabilitated, which is the whole
Yes.
purpose.
Yes.
Then they're all together and you're not completely isolated, which is just a bit inhumane, is I think how he puts it.
Yeah, they think the punishment is unusual, but there's nothing they can do about it. And Jack Warden says, Corey, we'll just stick with Corey.
Yeah, stick
Corey
with
says
Corey,
he's-
because otherwise you're talking about the warden and I get confused
I know.
for a second.
That's why I realized, and I was like, you know what? No, let's not do that. Corey says he thinks he is going insane and he can't take one more day. If he just,
he has to keep
gets up in
telling
the morning,
himself. Yeah.
he has to keep telling himself to push through. He's thinking of killing himself. Something keeps him holding on, and he decides to do it another day. And he's like, I cannot do it for 46 years. And I think that's the point. I think the idea from the state, in whatever, state the country is in at this point in 2046, is like, eventually these guys will all kill themselves. We'll be rid of them. It's cheaper than having to kill them ourselves. And then
Probably a thought, yeah. I mean, otherwise this asteroid is going to hit something, and that's going to happen, and who cares?
it's a shame. Corey's asteroid hit another asteroid and he's dead. Great. We don't have to bring him the supplies anymore. Bully for us.
Yeah.
We learn that the guy that doesn't like being there's name is Adams, and he says, you're breaking my heart. And Allenby gets pissed at him, and he tells him, like, go get the supplies, get out of here.
Yep.
And as they're doing this, Allenby says, hey, I brought you some books. So he gives him some more books to be able to read. He, pulls them out of his pocket, so it's like contraband.
Oh, yeah, you can tell.
And he's like, I've also brought you something else. And he says, it could mean my neck if they find out. And Corey's like, I don't want any of your fucking gifts. All I want is a pardon.
Right.
So what do you think happened, Rachel? Do you think it was self-defense, or it doesn't matter? Like, that's not the purpose of the story, is if he is guilty or not.
The whole idea is it doesn't matter if the person's guilty
it's
or
a
not.
Shawshank
Is this something
story.
you should do to somebody else? Is this something you can do to another human being? And
Right.
I don't know. I have no idea. I wasn't there. I didn't get to see the trial. All I know is what
Rachel wants the evidence.
I'm just saying I need a little bit more information. But if I were to go by what he says, and it was actually self-defense, I mean, either way, it's an awful thing to do to somebody. I mean, if he was like a serial killer, if he's like a murderer, like a disgusting murderer person.
One of them disgusting murderer people.
I still don't know about putting them on asteroids. That's just a lot of money you're gonna have to deal with anyways.
It feels like this would be very costly.
This is expensive.
Yeah, you have to ship a crew around these asteroids 4 times a year.
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah, it seems a little costly.
So, even if these were like the worst criminals, let's think like super villains,
Mm-hmm.
It's still very costly, and maybe just put them in one place, right?
Yeah, make a prison on an asteroid.
Yes, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
that's a bit more realistic.
Allenby says he hates coming here 4 months a year, seeing someone slowly lose their sanity. He can't take it anymore. And it makes sense because he has to make multiple stops.
Yes.
So even if there are people that he totally despises, he probably sees them all going insane at different stages.
Oh, yeah.
And he
I
knows
bet
what's
he's
going to
seen
happen.
Yes.
So he knows what could happen to Corey, so he thinks, like, he probably doesn't want Corey to go insane because he likes him.
Right.
So the other two guys bring out this giant crate, and they ask if the captain wants to open it, and he's like, no. He's very clearly hiding something. I thought they did a pretty good job of, like, playing he's hiding something.
Yes.
But he's trying to hide
kind of
that
like
he's hiding
softly about
something.
it, and also being like a boss to these guys to just like cover it up a little bit. Like, no, just leave it.
Yeah. He tells Corey that they'll be back in 3 months. The item is vacuum packed. There's no activator needed. Just let it out in the air, and then there's a manual. And one more thing, Corey should wait until they leave to open it. And he's like, yeah, whatever, have a good trip back. And then as they're leaving, out the window, he thanks him for the decency and the thought of it.
Yes.
So he does have this, even though he's kind of mad that they can't stay, and he's mad at Allenby a bit, he's still like, you know what, I do appreciate it. I do thank you.
Yeah, I think it's that loneliness. It's the I'm mad at you because I'm lonely, but I don't want you to leave. So I'm mad because I don't want you to leave. So maybe I should actually express my other feelings, not the anger.
Yeah.
Type of deal.
Allenby looks back once before heading out. Corey opens it once they leave, and he looks in, and it's surprised. We get this view from inside the crate.
Yes.
As Corey opens the thing up. And Adams asks what's in the crate, and Allenby goes, I don't know. And that should have just been the answer. It should have been like, I don't know.
I don't know.
They gave it to me. I didn't ask.
Yeah, they just told me to drop it off.
Yeah, that should have been his answer. But instead, because it's a Rod Serling script, he goes, illusion or salvation, I'm not sure. And kind of gives it away that he knows
Very
what's in the fucking crate. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I guess he's just like, you're not going to say anything, though. Like, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because I know it's in there.
You think that Allenby would be like, Adams, I can get you pushed down all the way to
like,
fucking Alcatraz.
He probably could literally be like, oh,
you won't be traveling around the asteroids,
you just
I'll tell
didn't
you
make
that.
it back to the ship all of a sudden. I don't think he would threaten him that much, but still.
Yeah,
it's a possibility.
That's possible. Corey reads the manual, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it ends up being a robot. And not any robot, but a robot woman.
Yep. A robot built in the form of a woman.
They pan over, and it is supposed to be a very plain woman, but it is clearly a model from the 1950s. It's Jean Marsh, actually, playing Alicia.
Which I was like, Alexa? It's pretty similar.
Was she in anything else? She was in Doctor Who, Rachel.
What'd she play in Doctor Who?
She created something called Upstairs, Downstairs, Sarah Kingdom.
Yeah, I found
like
that. Yeah.
That's the name that is on here a lot. But that's the Lost Story. I don't know who Sarah Kingdom would be. But that must be like
I was trying to see if she might have been like a companion at any point, because she could be a companion.
She could have been a companion.
Space security agent.
Ah.
Aids the Doctor in trying to defeat the Daleks. Well, that's funny.
There you go. So, a connection there. And she's supposed to look... I think she's supposed to just look like an average woman, but because it is Jean Marsh, you can tell that you're trying to, like, doll her down, right? Because you're, like, almost trying to put her in, like, a potato sack.
They do. They kind of give her, like, a potato sack dress, like a t-shirt dress. They just slick back her hair straight,
Yeah,
simple.
Yeah. She's got, like, Morticia Addams look to her a little bit. She does. Like, I don't know if it's because of the...
Yeah, I think it's how they drew on her eyebrows, because they're so thick.
And the hair. The way that the hair kind of falls to the shoulder.
Sure. Morticia Addams, I don't think her hair even moves, but yeah, I think I know what you mean.
You know what I mean. Like, the way that it fluffs
like a very
out.
Munsters-esque, like, the way it pulls back.
Yeah. Corey reads from the manual and says that she can reason, she can speak, she is beyond illness, and she'll live a normal human life, so she ages at the same age that a human would age. So she's essentially a cyborg or something like that. But for the purposes of 1959's television, she's a robot.
Yeah, she's a robot. She's AI.
Saying Alicia triggers her awake, and she says, I am Alicia. And Corey does not want her there. He's pissed that she's there because he's like, I don't want a machine. I wanted people. I wanted some fucking human beings to be here, not this machine.
Right. So then he treats her like the 1950s would treat a dog that they're just dumping on the side of the road and saying, get out of here. Leave.
Yes.
I'm surprised he didn't throw a rock at her. I'm like, what is happening? The way
He should have thrown a rock at her. That would have been fun. I'm sure she would have just stood there and like taken it because she didn't understand. I said some people would pay good money for this. For this woman robot.
Of course they would, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, come on, Corey. You know what the purpose of this woman robot is.
That's rude.
On Earth.
That's rude.
He's listening to a... So we come back after a commercial break, and he's listening to a record as the robot brings him some water. And he's disgusted by the thought of this robot. I can't tell if time has passed or not, and he's just, like, not having it at all.
Probably a day or two, I would think.
Yeah.
At least. Maybe a week.
He let her in the shack, which is interesting enough, I guess. But I guess he's like, well, what else am I going to do?
Yeah, like, what am I going to do? I think he also looks at her and kind of goes, you're too lifelike. Like, I guess come into the shack.
Come in and I guess you can be my maid or something, lady. Fucking robots. He asks if she can feel heat and cold, and she says yes. And she's like, okay, well, what about pain? And she's like, I can feel pain. Do you know that you're a machine? And I was like, okay, so this is basically Ex Machina, but if Ex Machina took place in 1959. Right? Like, it is a little bit of that where it's...
It is very similar, yes.
Yeah, like falling in love with the robot, or her, or... what's that really bad Robin
Detroit
Williams
Becomes
movie?
Human, which is actually a video game. Also another one. Oh, yeah, what is that one called?
Bicentennial Man.
Bicentennial Man.
That movie stinks. We'll probably cover it someday, I'm sure.
Yeah, but there's a lot like that.
About the robot becoming more human-like.
Right.
And in this case, it is about the robot, a man believing that a robot can be human. And at first he does not. And at first he completely rejects her. And he says, why do they turn you into a lie? He is upset because he thinks it's almost like mocking him, is what he thinks.
It's like mocking humans, too.
Yeah, and he's like, instead of giving me actual people, they give me a machine, and it mocks me. And he says, why did they cover you with flesh? And we get some internal monologue here. Do we get some internal monologue here?
No.
Oh, I said we get some internal monologue externally. Because he's saying all of his feelings. Because I think he feels like he can just say these things out loud because what does he care?
It's a robot.
She's a robot.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, robot.
Thank you.
My pronunciation's off.
Yeah, I don't know what that word is. It's robot. It's chowder. She touches his face, and he rejects her, saying that she's a lie. I don't know if he threw her toward the ground or something, but she ends up on the ground. I can't remember how.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, is that he kind of, like, pushes her.
And she says that he hurt her, and he compares her to the car. Because he's like, the car is a machine, you're a machine, I might as well have the fucking car, and I might as well have had that to be able to, like, roam around. I guess you could just get on her back and she could carry you to different places. She's she gonna tire? Like...
I think they programmed her to kind of, like, understand those feelings. I doubt she actually, like, tires.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I got on back of my woman robot, and she carried me around the asteroid. We found some nice, fun stuff. This is where, again, I feel like sometimes has passed a bit for him to be this angry, but like you were saying, it might not have been that long, and he's just letting it all out right now because he's just in a pissed off mood. He thinks she's just a reminder of his loneliness, and she turns and is crying because of his meanness.
Right.
And he kneels beside her, and he wipes the tear, and she says, I feel loneliness too. And because of that, he apologizes, and he calls her Alicia instead of Robot.
Yes. And
he lifts her up and is going to try to have her as a companion. So the next scene, they're playing checkers, and he says they've been together for 11 months. So this is all part of the diary entry.
Yes.
They've been together for 11 months. He doesn't know if it is a man and a woman or a man and a machine. He thinks of her as just an extension of him because she's learned to take on his traits. Whatever he likes, she, of course, likes because that's what she can do and use and learn from. So she's taking on the traits like a puppy or
or a Furby.
or a Furby.
Wasn't that what they were supposed to do? Is they would like start learning from you and like would repeat stuff?
I think so. I just remember that we learned that you could also turn them evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Personalities.
You're telling me that Allenby could have, instead of giving him a woman robot, would be to give him a Furby.
That's correct.
And this probably could have been solved just as easily.
Yes, and then he could take him with. Later. Yeah.
I think that's true. Actually, that would have solved this whole problem if he would have given him a Furby. I don't remember anything that they would say, but I do remember
because they would wake up.
Yeah, that could have been something. Corey, I gave you something.
They would sing. I forgot about that. The do.
Corey, I brought you something in a crate. Don't open it until we leave. And he just opens it, and it's just this. And it's just a Furby. You mock me with this thing.
Corey.
The other thing he could have brought him was a dog or a cat or something.
Honestly, though, an animal. Well, I guess maybe he doesn't want to give him anything that's actually living. Is the idea?
If something happens to him,
yeah.
Yeah, but even if something happens to him, the animal could have eaten Corey until.
Well, I'm saying you don't know what he's gonna do to the animal. Like he gotta be.
Get him this sex bit instead. We have these sex robots now on Earth, Corey. I'm giving you one. And a Furby.
I mean, could you
with
imagine how much
want.
he spent on that? Like, geez.
Probably a pretty good amount. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably okay. First of all, it's probably black market. I guarantee you. That this is a black market thing.
I
with
bet
these
it's
sex
not.
Robots.
Maybe he has an in. Maybe he's got like an in with the engineers, and he like gave him one like under the table type of thing. Like,
See,
here's one of our prototypes.
I still think it's Mafia. I think another asteroid has a mafioso on it.
Oh,
and
interesting.
He was like, I need you to send a message back to Earth. Yeah, and he traded with the mafioso for this sex bit.
Anyways.
But, as you were saying, a Furby would have solved all of the problems that we have coming up.
Get one of those robot dogs. That would have been better too, actually. Yeah.
A robot dog, a Tamagotchi.
Oh, yeah. Then he had something to take care of. Yeah.
Literally a game of The Sims.
Yes.
Or
just play The Sims. You're good to go. Now you could just pretend you're not lonely because now you have your little...
Or one of the management games like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yes.
Or something. Like a game that doesn't really end. You can just keep playing it.
That's
like
right.
that.
Open
That's
world.
all you needed.
Yep.
Yeah. Even Madden, where you could like play 50
Some
seasons.
sports games going.
That would have been great.
Some racing game. He likes his car,
Corey, I'm bringing you something back from Earth. Don't open it until we leave. It's called a PlayStation. It's kind of a robot. I don't have a screen to see this. The hell good is it? Anyway. She smiles as they play checkers, and she gets like some move over him.
I think it's chess. I don't think it's checkers.
You don't think so? I thought it was checkers.
I think he said chess. I made a chessboard, which it looks like checkers. So I wanted it to be checkers. The way that it looks like they're playing it should be checkers. The pieces all look the same.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. You can.
You could play both ones because he's using like nuts and bolts as the pieces. So you could like, all the screws are pawns, but then you could also just be like, this is my side, this is your side.
Yes.
So yeah, he says that he loves her and that he isn't lonely anymore.
Yeah.
It's been 11 months. So a question here.
That's
Rachel.
a long time.
Does he hide her from them?
Yeah.
Because that means that 2 or 3 more trips have been made at this point.
I think he does.
So you think he like keeps her in the corner of a shack?
Yeah,
either
inside or she goes off. I think she does. I think she goes off somewhere because he doesn't want Allenby to get in trouble.
Actually, that makes sense because in the last scene, she's like off like reading a book or something like
Right.
on a rock. So
Yeah.
she must just go like hide while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. They are looking out at the stars now, and he's pointing out constellations like Homer with Pepe. There's the little cowboy and the big cowboy. And he actually knows them. I wish that he would have gotten them wrong.
I would have loved if she was just like, well, that's actually this one, and
Yes,
that's actually this one.
I would have really liked it if he was wrong about
and he's
them.
like,
Because
look, I made up names because I have nothing better to do. So for the few years I've been here, I've been making up names for the stars. Because they aren't even the same stars that Earth sees. He's that far away.
That'd be kind of clever, actually. I kind of would have liked that. That would have been some nice, like, that would have been a nice little quirk about it, where he's like, yeah, I had to make up my own constellations and stuff.
Because they're different, yeah.
Yeah. So, you think he's making a pass at her, or what?
Oh, I think that's long been happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling.
Okay.
I assume.
So this robot is just full of dust, and...
Too much.
He can't shower, Rachel.
Yeah, weirdly, why is there no bathroom?
He's in a shack. He just goes out in the middle of the desert to do his business, I guess.
Yeah, but why doesn't he get, like, a shower?
Yeah, even the criminals on Earth get a shower
You'd
and
think
a toilet.
he would, otherwise he's gonna get, like, gross and diseases and, like, have more
Maybe there's
issues.
like a
There's
a
gotta
toilet
be.
out back.
I bet there's, like, an outside shower.
I
bet
mean,
there's
you
one
can
of
think
those.
that. I think it's just part of how cruel this thing is, but...
Well, he has a fridge.
That's true, he does have a fridge.
So why can't he have a shower? You could have an outhouse and also have a shower that's just like a spigot.
Because he's a filthy criminal, that's why. Yeah, I bet you're right. It's probably a spigot. You're right.
Yeah.
It is probably like a thing like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Just a curtain. You don't even need a curtain. He gets to
Counselor,
just shower
I'll
in
allow
the... Right, everything's out, hanging out
Yeah.
while he's taking a shower.
Goddamn right. She does the same thing. That's his most conflicted with if she's a woman or a robot. When the robot showers. She's got dust all in her. I needed her to shower. She points out a star, but it's actually a ship. And he's like, there isn't one for 3 months due, but it's coming in. And they're like, yeah, that's weird. So it's not supposed to be coming, but he's like, that looks like Allenby's ship. And that means that if it's making like the trip that it usually makes when he sees it, they'll be there in the morning.
I wonder if they do like circle it. You know, they go
Yeah, I
around
think that's
the
what it is.
asteroid and then land.
Yeah. Well, he says he has to make trips to other asteroids too.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's
like,
true. So maybe he's going to a different one and then comes by.
Yeah. They come the next morning and they're running in Allenby and his crew. And they're telling him that there's good news. He's been given a pardon. But on Earth it's been deemed cruel and unusual punishment. So anyone that's on the asteroid, very much like Minority Report-ish, has been given a pardon and they're all allowed to go back to Earth.
My
They
assumption
need to-
is they're going to all have to be retrialed on Earth.
It's possible, or it's possible that they could be like time served for
okay.
the
Very
cruel
true.
and unusual punishment.
Very
Yeah.
true.
See what the Supreme Court says about that one. Supreme Court, let us know. If you're listening. They need to take off in 20 minutes because there are I mean, it's possible, Rachel, with our Supreme Court. God fucking knows what those people listen to. But they need to take off in 20 minutes because there are meteor storms and they can't make it back if they don't leave within the next 20 minutes. And Corey can't believe it. He is excited because he thinks, like, I'm finally going home. I'm going home.
Yep.
And they're like, well, go get your stuff and we'll get out of here. And he's like, I don't have any stuff. I actually
It
kind
can
of
only
like
be
the way
15 pounds too. Like
Well, the way that Corey plays this off, I like it because he's like, I don't have any stuff. I've got the clothes on my back. I've got a diary. He should take the diary for sure.
yeah, why wouldn't? Yeah, I'm not. Well, I assume that's kind of a part of his stuff that he's thinking he'd take.
I don't have 15 pounds of stuff. All I have is a shirt, a ledger book, a pencil, and a pair of shoes. That car they can keep. That'll be for the next poor devil.
There won't be any next poor devil.
Good.
He can only take 15 pounds worth of stuff because of all of the extra passengers. Now, they
Right.
should have thought about this before they...
Yeah, what the heck? Like, you didn't
Did
have like an
this.
extraction crew? Like, what is this? You're just like the regular crew that delivers stuff. Why are you taking all of the guys out? But okay.
And as Allenby, you should have been like, hey, maybe, like, knowing that there's a robot, that you might also need to bring back. Although I don't think Allenby knows the extent to the relationship that he's
No,
garnered
I
with
think
this.
he was just like, well, we're just not going to bring her back because I gave you a car and stuff too. Like, none of that's coming with.
Yeah. And Allenby realizes he thinks he's bringing Alicia with, and he's like, it's not a woman, it's a robot. And Corey's like, no, it's a woman. And Allenby's like, it's a robot. It's a goddamn robot. So you get this back and forth between the two of them, of Allenby calling it a robot and Corey calling it a woman.
Right.
They debate about whether or not she is real. I like the framing of the angry guy between them. I don't know why, but it almost feels like it's this, like, almost like society judging this interaction between Allenby and Corey. I haven't quite figured out what the director might be going for here with the framing, but
Yeah, because
there's
it's like
something
even
there.
from like an up angle. It's even like
Yeah.
an up angle towards
they-
all of them.
They purposely have that guy standing in between them.
Is it something with like the three sides of it all? Like the convict, the nice,
Like the nice justice and like
Yeah,
the way the
versus,
society
like,
is judging
yeah.
Corey and now judging Allenby too, almost.
right?
And
And
I
the
don't
whole
know.
idea of a robot as a companion as well.
Oh, that's what
It's
I'm
all of
saying.
this.
Like, it's got to be
Yeah.
a bit of like this guy judging the robot and this guy judging Corey for being
Yes.
able to get the pardon. And I think then because he's between them, Allenby is trying to, not say stuff but say stuff. So yeah, there's something there with that. Folks at home, let us know what that is. But it's definitely like some sort of meaning behind that.
It feels like it.
Corey runs off, and he's saying, just throw some equipment. But they're like, no, the robot needs to be left behind. Corey grabs... Yeah, so in this fight,
Yes.
Corey grabs Allenby's arm for a second, and I was like, is he going to choke?
He
I thought he
almost
was going
grabs
to
his
choke
like
him.
throat. He almost
Yeah.
goes for his throat, which then it's like, was it self-defense?
Mm-hmm.
Or does this man just have a temper?
Might
I
just
don't
have a
know.
temper. Corey's shouting, she's a woman, and he runs to the shack, and she isn't inside.
But yeah, during the fight and everything, he was saying like, you can't bring her, like, can't you just take some stuff off so she can come with? But like, she's a robot.
She's a robot.
She's not like a person. We're not gonna bring her back.
They can't
And he
wrangle
calls it
him.
murder. He goes, but that's murder.
Interesting. Because he views her as a person.
Exactly.
So they can't wrangle him to get out of there. They find her sitting on the rocks, and she won't talk to them out of shock or something, or maybe because he said, don't, make sure not to say anything if they come by. He's like, tell him, Alicia, tell him that you're a woman, tell him that, and she won't say anything.
Well, maybe that's also like a robot protocol. Like, how am I can't tell you I'm a human when I'm not human. That's a lie.
I'm not allowed to lie
You
to
know what I
Corey.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's
it
one
could
of
be robot
those
protocol. Yeah, I actually wondered, Rachel,
rules
did he...
of having a robot and the AI stuff.
No,
There's
I
rules.
hear you. There are rules. There is definitely rules there. I wondered if he made it all up in his head. Because she's taking on his personality traits and she's whatever he likes, she likes. Was she much plainer of an interaction? And he was giving her more personality in his head.
That's also a possibility. This could be a Wilson situation where you have that volleyball, and that's what you're going. That's your lifeline right there. So you're going to give it as much personality as you can.
I don't like that interpretation.
I like the AI is a robot
Yeah.
AI.
I think that brings up a lot more ethical questions and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I think it's possible. It's something I'll toss out there for the folks that it could be that he just imprinted his own personality onto her, and she was just going, "I'm Alicia," as he fucked her or whatever he was doing.
Oh God, Jesus!
As he played checkers with her or whatever he was doing.
Thank
for the
you.
past year.
We can call it an illusion.
Yes, I was playing checkers with her all night. If you catch my drift.
All right.
Allenby shoots the robot.
Shoots her in the face.
Who does keep saying Corey over and over and
Yes.
over again until the voice box goes out. And the robot face is kind of creepy.
Oh yeah.
That we
Well, I
see
mean,
this
it's
robot
kind of what
face.
you expect, right? The gears and stuff and the
It
wires.
looks like a They Live alien. It's kind of creepy. They tell Corey to come, and it's all behind him now. and he tries to get to him to be like okay by saying it like this was all just a nightmare, this was all just a fantasy, you just have to let it all go because you're going to get to go home. And you'll wake up at home because, like, maybe they're cryogenically, like, going to sleep
possible.
or something.
I think because of how far away, they'd probably have to do that.
Yeah.
All you're leaving behind is loneliness.
I must remember that. I must remember to keep that in mind.
There's a metaphor there. The representation of loneliness and she's his loneliness.
Right. He's only a bit complicated. I thought he should be more distraught about this.
I would think so, too.
Almost too composed.
Yeah,
I feel like
he's like, oh, you snapped me out of my, like, stupor of being in love with a robot so quickly.
Yeah. And then
like, you said you loved her. You should be, like, distraught. They just shot her in the face.
He's distraught because his girlfriend was shot in the face. But all he says is, yeah, I must remember to keep that in mind. And then they walk off and they leave, and he's a free man, and that's the end of the episode.
But I'm wondering, like, so this was done in the 50s. This wasn't done now. Nowadays, this would be all about the AI part of it and actually having, like, some sort of relationship and, like, all of that kind of communication and all that kind of stuff.
It would be a romance,
yes. The robot is a physical representation of his loneliness in this interpretation, I think. I don't think it has anything to really do with, like, it being
it is
alive.
It is. I agree with you. It is absolutely supposed to be a physical representation of it's personifying his isolation. Yes. Right. I agree with that completely.
So it's interesting. So I like I'm jumping the gun, Kev. Maybe we should go to that.
All right. Well, let me do the closing narration here, because that is the end of the episode. And Rod comes back and says, "And a microscopic piece of sand that floats through space is a fragment of a man's life. Left to rust is the place he lived in and the machines he used. Without use, they will disintegrate from the wind and the sand and the years that act upon them. All of Mr. Corey's machines, including the one made in his image, kept alive by love, but now obsolete, in the Twilight Zone." And that is the end of The Lonely. Coming up next week, the distinguished actor lends us his talents as Mr. Burgess Meredith stars in Time Enough at Last. Thank you, and good night. So anyway, one thing about the Blu-ray, I'm going to tell everybody about this right now, if you want to go get the Blu-ray. One of the fun things about it is it keeps in all of those, like, pieces that would have been in the broadcast. So it keeps in Serling telling you what next week's episode is going to be about.
That's
and then
fun.
It also keeps in, like, this little stinger bumper. Sometimes it's, like, for cigarettes, and sometimes it's for, like, a television show that CBS is debuting. Like, it'll be like, you know, All in the Family, or not All in the Family, but, like, whatever it was in the 50s. It's kind of fun, and to, like, just see those things again.
That's really funny.
Rachel, I think it is your turn to go first on the Twilight Zone questions here. So, does The Lonely have shelf life?
So I was kind of already about to, like, hop into my thoughts about this one. I like this one. I do think it belongs on the shelf, and I like how there's different interpretations of it depending on when you've seen it. And I think that's one of the reasons I would put it on the shelf, is because of how it kind of incorporates these interesting sci-fi features, like this AI feature that is really prevalent today, and how it would fit in. At the time of this recording.
I'm joking, Rachel. Because if you're listening,
100 years in the future.
Now, I don't know.
We have one of our robots is actually, listening to the podcast.
It's very possible.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you for listening. So like and subscribe. And I also please review.
And I also think that the idea of cruelty, for cruelty's sake, almost, is also something that should be represented and thought about, because of how justice is worked and served and all of those aspects, and this kind of brings that into it. And then there's also just the whole psychological idea of being lonely and being isolated into one space by yourself. Like, you're just, here you are. Like, how does that affect you and everything around you?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say yes, it belongs on the shelf. How about you, Kevin?
No, I think that I think that you said a lot of good stuff there. I would say that for me, I won't say a lot of the philosophical stuff. I'll say that I just think that this is a good one. I think that this is a very solid episode of the Twilight Zone. I think it's well acted. I think it's well directed. I think it's well written. I think it is very, very good. I will say I think that the middle is a bit rushed of them having this relationship.
Yeah. I wish there was
them
more.
Learning each other, yeah. I think that that could have been a little bit more drawn out. But the setup is very good. The payoff is really good. The twist is good where he loses the robot at the end. He loses his friend, his companion, his wife, whatever it is. So definitely has shelf life for sure. I think so as well. Mm-hmm. I will say, though, this is one of the few instances where I actually think that, like you're saying, you could change it in the times. In one of these instances of the future Twilight Zones, you could redo this and make it a 40-minute episode, and you could draw out that relationship a bit more, and I think that that could be interesting.
Right.
I kind of wonder if they have done that or not. I can't think if the Jordan Peele one has something like this. I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. From what I remember, I did watch those, or at least I watched the first season. I don't know if there's more. Is there more than one season?
There's 3. I think there's 3 seasons.
I don't remember if I watched the other ones. I don't think I got a chance to. But at least with the first one, I don't remember seeing anything with robits.
No. and I want to make this very clear. This goes for all of human time. If you make a Twilight Zone episode and you brand it as the Twilight Zone and there is a robot in it, they have to be called robits. Even though we don't
have to say
call them robits. In the Twilight Zone universe, they are robots.
I think if Jordan Peele was doing like a robot episode, he would say robot. I feel like I don't know. Have to.
I can't remember a lot of robots because, like you said, Rachel, it's kind of AI at this point.
Yes.
So you're gonna that's the next thing. But anyway, yes, The Lonely. Cross it off the list. Is on the shelf. It was a good one. It's definitely up there as being worthy of being in the grand finale of Volume 4.
Yes.
Coming up next, after the break, a word from our fake sponsor. We will get into one of the all-time classic American television episodes. It is time enough at last. Join us, won't you? Thank you. And good day.
Well, don't leave.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm not. I was gonna leave.
We're coming back right away for this one.
Tonight, Wild Root Cream Oil, the lanolin-enriched hair tonic that keeps hair well groomed all day. Wild Root in bottle or tube brings you the Twilight Zone.
You know, this was me 5 years ago, and it's still me. Because I confess I'm a waistline watcher from way back. Well, that's enough for today. Now for a lively lift. Ice-cold Coca-Cola. There's no waistline worry with Coke, you know. Actually, this individual-sized bottle has no more calories than half a grapefruit. Another thing, the cold, crisp taste of Coke is so satisfying, it keeps me from eating something else that might really add those pounds. Coke's a natural, wholesome blending of pure food flavors. I guess that's why everyone likes the refreshing new feeling you get, only from not-too-sweet Coca-Cola. And no wonder. Lively, lifty Coca-Cola provides a welcome bit of quick energy between meals. Makes for a pleasant pause in a busy day. Oh, and remember, Coke is low in calories, too. Say, now, don't you get any thinner.
And we're back with the finale. I don't know. All right, I'll do a different one. Ready?
And we're back doing a horror movie, which I guess we technically do need to do a horror movie next, because we haven't done a horror movie.
We did Halloween.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind. We have to do another one?
And we are back for the final time here at Shelf Life for Volume 4. I made it. Yeah, this is not the series finale. This is the season finale.
The volume finale.
of Shelf Life, the final segment of Volume 4, and the last bit that we need to cross off the list before we go on a break for the rest of the summer. Rachel, what is the final episode that we will be covering?
We are going to be discussing episode 8, Time Enough at Last.
So with this one, I will ask you, Rachel, do you have any history with Time Enough at Last? And what is it about?
So history-wise, I just know this story so well at this point. I've seen the episode. I've seen it depicted in other pop culture like areas of pop culture that I just feel like I know it. I don't remember.
Did The Simpsons do this one? I know Futurama did. I know Family Guy. I can vividly remember the Family Guy one because it's with Peter's brain cells at the end of that episode where he keeps getting drunk.
Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
And I feel like Simpsons would have done one as well, but I don't recall because it would almost have to be Treehouse of Horror.
I would assume it is, right?
I mean, they did a little bit with the Omega Man.
Otherwise, like, besides that, yeah, it's referenced in so many different places. It's just like, it just feels like it's there. So I don't have like a memory of being like, oh, the first time. I don't have a clue.
Yeah, I feel like if you are fortunate enough, again, like we said during the segment on The Lonely, if you are fortunate enough to come into this episode not knowing what the ending of this episode is, stop and go watch it first and then come back. Yeah, we'll take a break. Here we go. Pause. Okay. All right. So
good job.
Now, thank you for watching that. Let us know if you enjoyed it or not. It's absorbed into the osmosis of pop culture, I think, at this point. So it is hard to say I didn't know what the ending was. I think it is interesting. The interesting thing about this, though, is the first time I actually watched it, I didn't know what the middle was. Because they make it seem like he jumps to the end right away.
Yes.
And any time that you see this in pop culture, and that's not the case at all. He goes through a lot of emotions.
Absolutely. There's a lot more going
throughout the episode. Yeah. Than just the ending and the twist. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is Time Enough at Last.
Oh, did you want me to say what it's about?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I did. Yeah, we didn't do that.
I guess we're just like talking about what it's about, but we don't know what it's
right.
about. There is a man who loves to read. Some sort of apocalyptic occurrence happens, and he is the last man in the city on Earth. I don't know. We don't know really how.
We don't know
anything outside of his little area. But to him, he is alone, and he's the last.
Yes. He's the last man on Earth. It's pretty...
It's very sad.
It's kind of it's a trope story of being the last man on Earth, especially from this time period of the Cold War, because people were truly afraid that they were going to bomb the hell out of the place, and like, what would it look like? So you'd always need to have a last man on Earth character so that you could see that, whether that is the Omega Man or the last I Am Legend, or even something like Planet of the Apes and those kind of things pull at the idea of like the world blew up and now you're alone. Right. So in a very, very similar way to The Lonely, this deals with isolation, persecution, loneliness. It's almost like it was on Serling's mind or something when he was making all of these. And it fits into the Volume 4 stories a lot, and this idea of man destroying itself, and the nebbish and the meek inheriting the earth here in the form of Henry Bemis? Is it Bemis? Bemis? I can't remember how they say his name. I think it's Bemis.
I would assume Bemis.
I think it's Bemis. I'm pretty sure it's Bemis, now that I'm like reading the opening narration. So Mr. Bemis, played by the legendary Burgess Meredith. Rachel, Burgess Meredith, for you, but best probably known for going quack, 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 quack in Batman 66 as the Penguin.
I cannot picture this man as the Penguin, but I could see it.
Others probably think of him as Rocky's trainer.
All right.
In Rocky.
Fair to say others.
But for me, he is the Penguin. And
For
I
me,
think...
he is Bemis.
Yes, and for a lot of people, he is Bemis. And I think that he did this really... I mean, Burgess Meredith was already known as being this great actor. I kind of feel like he was in Of Mice and Men and stuff. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like this helped push the Twilight Zone into this, like, different stratosphere, that, like, Burgess Meredith is taking this and making this character, because he's a very fleshed out character. He's a caricature, but he's also got a lot of qualities that I think that would endear him to an audience in 1959 for sure, but could still endear him now to an audience, if that makes any sense. But yes, Burgess Meredith in this as Henry Bemis. There's a lot of stuff written about this episode. There's a lot of things on this episode that people have said over time. A poll once asked readers of Twilight Zone magazine. I don't know what year this was in. I'm just reading this off of an article from something that was written in 2007, maybe? That's when this article said, anyway. Which episode of the series is remembered the most? Time Enough at Last was the most frequent response, with To Serve Man coming in a distant second. In the TV Guide's 100 Most Memorable Moments on Television, Time Enough at Last was ranked number 25. In an interview, Serling cited Time Enough at Last as one of his two favorites from the series, the other being The Invaders. The glasses from Henry Bemis are on display in the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I don't think that... are there any Tower of Terrors left? There might be one in Florida.
Is. Yeah, I think
there's
the one in Florida still there, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. So his glasses are in the lobby. They are supposed to be reading glasses, but Meredith wanted to wear the glasses the entire time.
Honestly,
to be able
they look like he's just blind. I mean, there's no way those are only reading glasses. All right, as a person who needs her glasses to see, I understand.
As much as people may say they remember it, as much as people say, oh yeah, that one's got to be the favorite or whatever, that's not the question, and those opinions don't matter, because this, here at Shelf Life, is the opinion that matters. This is the truth about Time Enough at Last. The question of whether or not it deserves a place on your shelf is about to be answered. Let's get right into it, Rachel.
Let's go.
This episode debuted on November 20th, 1959. It was directed by John Bram, and, of course, the teleplay is by Rod Serling. The teleplay is by Rod Serling because it's actually based on a short story by Lynn Venable titled Time Enough at Last. I think the ending is different. Okay. I think the ending is Serling's, but don't quote me on that, folks, because I actually don't know the answer to that question, but I think that's where the difference is.
Read it quick.
It's in different, what would you call those? Anthologies. I think it's in some different anthologies. It was published, but they don't actually say what the plot of the story is. So I don't know. I can't find anywhere that actually outlines the plot for that. The episode begins, and it actually doesn't begin with the opening narration, so we'll have to save the opening narration for a bit further down. But it begins in a bank. And there's people walking around, and we go to a teller, and the teller is counting this woman's money while he reads. He has a book underneath the table. I don't think I could do a good Burgess Meredith, but it's kind of like this. Oh. It's
Very
Henry
dorky.
Bemis.
Yeah.
And he asks this lady, who I think is about to kill the dog from Gremlins.
It's so true. It is that woman. Oh my god.
Mrs. Deagle, I think, is in here.
That's the name.
Oh, Mrs. Deagle, have you ever read David Copperfield? He is going on about this. Rachel, please describe Mr. Henry Bemis.
Well, he's not the voice you're trying to do, which is very difficult.
Burgess Meredith has a very distinct voice, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah, he looks kind of like a dorky kind of dude. His hair isn't like perfect, you know.
You're right. He does have a little bit of a disheveled look, especially for 1959.
Yeah. Well, I think that might be the idea of him being a bit poor, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a bank teller, so whatever they make.
Sure. He also has almost a handlebar mustache. I don't know what kind of mustache you would call that, but it gets very pointy at the ends. And then he's got these massive, very high prescription round glasses on.
Some Coke bottle glasses.
Oh, very much so.
If you will.
Absolutely.
Some very, very distinct Coke bottle glasses.
If
I
that
think.
didn't ruin his eyes doing these takes, like, I would be so surprised.
Oh, you think that...
If he had
Well, I
those
guess they'd
on
have
for
to-
long enough, his eyes would, like, be doing that thing.
Well, because he tries most of the time to get his eyes in frame so that he can be like, "Ooh," like he
they almost look like
bulges
he's
his eyes out.
cross-eyed.
Yeah, it makes him cross-eyed and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, you think that there's actual like prescription in them?
Well, the way that there's something that magnifies at least. They're at least like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, you're right. And even if it is a practical effect, there's yeah. All right.
Yeah.
He's so distracted by David Copperfield, and he's explaining all of these wonderful characters in this book, that he shortchanges Mrs. Deagle, or whoever the woman is. The lesson here is a bit muddled, because he cannot do his job right, because he's so distracted by books.
Oh, he's so distracted just by reading in general. We'll get into.
Yes. He wants to just read. He wants to, which you can take multiple ways. It's either like, okay, bud, like, that's great that you're reading, but that should be for hobby time. Or it could be that this is a world where everyone hates reading and he is this out-of-place intellectual, much
Right.
like Rod Serling.
Yes.
Or it could be that people are wasting their time, because time is a big thing with this episode as well.
Absolutely.
And instead of doing something like expanding their minds through books or even television or whatever, or through art, I guess we should say, not content, art.
Think more art.
I think what we probably do is probably consider more content, but we're trying to break down art, so I'm hoping that adds value to the art in some way, shape, or
I
form,
would hope so.
as
I would
opposed to
hope so.
content like a fucking trailer reaction or
Well, I was
the
thinking
shit
more so.
TikTok type stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking more so. What is it called? The crap that is on TV, reality TV. I was thinking more so reality TV, like that kind of crap.
Even that, you could consider some of that art.
Absolutely not. There's which one? What would right now? You tell me which one's art. You talking about The Bachelor? Is that art to you?
No. Okay,
because
but
that kind of
bad
shit.
Bad art is still art. If there's
That's
some
not
sort
art.
of...
Where's the art? It's just a bunch of idiots being manipulated
could-
in a room together.
Because you could go through it and you could analyze it in some way of the human condition. You could get some sort of human
those
condition.
people are not the general
Spots out
public.
of
I can
it.
tell you that too. So that is not even an experiment.
But I'm saying, like, compared to, like, a prank on fucking TikTok
That's
or
also
YouTube,
garbage.
Like, to me, that's more content. There's no heart put into
It's
it.
entertainment.
Yeah.
People would call
yeah.
all of that entertainment still.
And I think
people
that's
get
probably a
that
better
out
word.
of it.
I don't like the word content because I think it dismisses the idea of art and it makes it so that it's all just one big bundle. And I think entertainment is probably a better term for that. And there's art in entertainment, if that fits better.
But there's not always art and entertainment. I think there's always entertainment within art, but I don't think there's always art and
Well,
entertainment.
whatever. I say it backwards.
I'm just
but
saying it that
whichever
way. I'm just gonna say it that way. I don't know what you think, but I mean, like I was saying, there's a lot of garbage out there.
But to me, I'm just saying, like, that, to me, that's, like, bad art. But I get your point.
But that's just reality stuff. Just to me, isn't art at all.
I
It's just
don't
it's
like
not even
it.
a bad
I
experiment.
don't like it.
Doesn't even make any sense.
Anyway, so she doesn't get the right amount of change back, so she ends up walking away because he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought that I counted it right, but apparently I was wrong." He doesn't even notice that she walks away because he starts saying like, "And then there's this other character."
Yeah,
and
he was like describing
the
the
book
book to her. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he was doing this whole time.
He's doing his own podcast. She walks away and he doesn't notice, and then the little bit here of knowing that he's a man who hates that the world won't let him enjoy reading, and this world hates books. That is the crux of his life. His boss comes by and asks him to come to his office. A Walt Disney looking man.
Yes.
This guy.
Very
Wasn't
much
he?
so. Very, very much so. Yes.
I don't think that means anything. I think that's just a look that people had back then, but I was like,
Probably.
who's this Walt Disney looking motherfucker? And then as they go into the president of the bank's office, We get the opening narration. I'll do this one, Rachel, so you can do the closing, since you
Okay.
did the opening last time. Witness Mr. Henry Bemis, a charter member in the fraternity of dreamers. A bookish little man whose passion is the printed page, but who is conspired against by a bank president and a wife and a world full of tongue cluckers and the unrelenting hands of a clock. But in just a moment, Mr. Bemis will enter a world without bank presidents, or wives, or clocks, or anything else. He'll have a world all to himself, without anyone. So they haven't even said the thing about the wife yet, but you already get the idea of he doesn't have enough time to be able to do all the things that society is asking him to do,
Right.
including his boss and his wife, and read. And there is this idea of
And
not
have,
having
like-
enough time to be able to do it.
Right, and get to enjoy something that you like to do. He doesn't get to do that.
And that is the worst part about the way that we've built
Yes, it's awful.
life up.
It's
is
horrendous.
you don't have enough time for the things that you enjoy all the time. That is a lesson I think that is part of this as well.
So instead of getting to enjoy life, you're just constantly working.
Like they never really get on that. Like this is more about
I don't think
solitude
they
and
realized they did it.
isolation.
I don't think
Yeah.
they realized they did it. It's one of those again. I don't think they realized it, but that's actually another thing that they're saying with this one.
Yeah. These people are like holding you down from being able to do something that you enjoy because and
They're forcing you to do other things, or you're just constantly working and that's all you have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And you just have to keep doing that no matter what. But it's definitely there. There's definitely commentary on that, even if, like you're saying, it's in the background or wasn't meant to be commentary.
I
We
don't
go
think it
into
was
the.
intentional.
It was not intentional. Yes, an inadvertent commentary on the status of leisure time.
Yes.
It also makes sense that there would be some commentary on that because of how progressive Serling was. I don't know how
that makes sense.
pro-union he was. I don't
Also
know if we
true.
got into any of that, but that same idea of like, why are we working 15 hours a day? Shouldn't we be having some time for ourselves?
Actually
so I can
enjoying life.
fucking read? Yeah. So when we come back in, we go into the office kind of oddly. We go through the sign on the door.
It like fades to black and then zooms in on president.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Which would have been coming back from commercial, but that still seems weird that
Yeah.
you do that. And the bank president talks in a very formal manner. I think this is intentional because I think he talks in a manner that is supposed to be very business-like. That is
Right.
very... He isn't treating Bemis like an individual or like a person. He's treating him almost like a tool to get
Yes.
work done.
Right. I think
And that's
think
why
I can
he's
see that. Absolutely.
that's why he talks in that particular manner where he's talking about like I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like
how
you know,
a bank teller would know what they're doing and
and it's like
how
an
they're
employee
doing.
has to foresee this and that and this and that, and it is very prescriptive. It almost comes off very prescriptive.
and within this organization and all of that kind of stuff
Yes.
too.
Yeah. And he says, "You're not really a bank teller, are you, Mr. Bemis? No, you're a reader."
That's an interesting.
Well, because I think in this universe, people look down on reading. Like, I do think that's...
I think that's what
part
it
of
is.
it.
Yeah.
He sees him going to the vault during the lunch hour, and he goes to sit. Bemis does, because he's like, well, I'm going to sit, and I'm like, make a point, and the president doesn't like completely tell him to stop, but he's like, like, don't sit down.
Yeah, like,
You're not
don't
allowed to
bother.
sit down. Yeah.
Right.
And he tells him to
This
stop.
is gonna take long.
Yeah. He tells him to stop reading or you won't be able to stay and you'll be able to read in the park all you want because you won't have a job, if
Right.
you get my drift.
Yep.
So he's like, don't read here or we'll fire you. Now, first of all, Mr. Bank President Walt Disney, it's his lunch hour. You can tell him he can't read in the vault. He has
Sure.
to go outside to read.
Right.
But I don't think you can tell him he can't read during his lunch hour.
True. During the lunch hour. Now, he did walk upon him reading while actually working with a customer.
Which you probably
Could
can't
yell
do.
at him about that one. That's a little.
Sure.
That's too much because you're not
I'm
paying
not
attention.
gonna
to what you're doing.
I'm not gonna defend Bemis in this situation. No.
But yeah, screw you. That's his lunch hour. Whatever he wants to do on it, that's his choice.
Goddamn right. This is fucking America. I can do it in my lunch hour what I want. If I want to read David Copperfield, I can. If I want to scroll through my phone and look at pornography, I can. And you can't tell me what to do, Mr. President of the bank. If I want to go to McDonald's and eat my weight in fucking hamburgers, I can do that.
Yep. You could.
I don't do any of those things, by the way. I edit for the most part or go for a walk.
Read, edit, walk, crochet. Yeah. Good breaks.
He tells the president that he really needs to be able to read because his wife won't let him read at home.
Screw this wife,
Which
then. Why are you
sounds
married to her?
So bizarre. She hides the magazines and papers from him. He's gotten so desperate that he reads the labels on condiments, and and Burgess Meredith sells these lines pretty well.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
Then he goes, I can't even use ketchup anymore.
It's just that my wife won't let me read at home. See, when I get home at night and try to pick up a newspaper, she yanks it out of my hand. And then after dinner, if I try to find a magazine, she hides them. Well, I got so desperate that I found myself trying to read the labels on the condiment bottles on the table. Now, she won't even let me use the ketchup.
And the boss says, well, you know what I think that means, Mr. Bemis? That your wife is quite the bright woman, because he thinks that books are stupid and dumb. It's such like a...
It is
such
very
like an
weird.
anti-intellectualism.
I think that's what it is. I think it is all anti-intellectualism.
It definitely is there again, and I think it's more blatant that there is some... It could have been even more exploited even more if they expanded the episode a bit, of having it where he's reading all of these warning signs in the papers and stuff.
Yes.
And no one else is, because they think that reading is for reading.
There's got to be some 50s term for it. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, reading is for
squares.
Squares. Yeah, reading's for squares. So they can't bring themselves to do it, but because he's reading all of this, he knows that it's going to happen.
He's actually like seeing a correlation between it all.
Yeah. Or he's prepared for it. That would be different, because then it wouldn't be an accident that he's the last man on Earth.
Right.
So that would change that factor of it. But I could see that, like, if they wanted to pronounce
they could
that
probably
a little
still
more.
make it accidental, but he's just reading into it and he's trying to talk to people about it, and he's just
and then he
curious
still
about
goes to the bank vault. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
that almost makes me think of like Don't Look Up, how that whole thing goes.
Don't look up is a little too on the nose.
Well, that's
about
very
it. It doesn't do
very
it-
on the nose. But
Yeah.
That's the first thing that came to mind, was that idea.
Yes, because Don't Look Up is supposed to be about anti-intellectualism and stuff, for sure. Yeah, that's the most recent one that we've gotten, I think. Because I feel like Hollywood is afraid to make satire about anti-intellectualism because they think they're going to lose revenue from half the country, or 35% of the country.
Sure.
It's like, just fucking do it.
Well, do
so
it.
that,
if that's what you want to do it.
Maybe we
out.
should do more of that, because then you
I
could
would
say,
love that if they did more of that.
tell
That'd be
people to
interesting.
shut the fuck up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the
Think
boss...
before you speak type of deal, you know?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The boss says that he got in trouble one day because he's like, remember when that woman tried to hit you? And and Bemis is like, well, you know, I tried to explain to her that I was actually trying to read her lapel, because she had a button on that was like a campaign button.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, I was just trying to read who she voted for. And it's like the way that he says, like, who she voted for, that they're not saying
He's awkward,
the woman
and he's
thought that he was looking at her boobs.
But that's what he was doing. Yeah.
The way that Burgess Meredith plays it, you understand that, because of the way he goes, who, and looks down. Like,
right, like I wasn't looking at her boobs. I wasn't trying to be lewd. It was like... And he's such an awkward kind of dude that it's like that worked out really well, like with how he said it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's completely obsessed with reading. Maybe his wife just wants to get some. Maybe he's like ignoring the wife, Rachel. Like, is that
Potentially.
possible?
I guess that
he's
could be
just
possible.
so into reading, and that's
Yeah.
another one of these things where it's like, don't become overly consumed with a hobby as well, because you
Sure.
need to be there
Be a little bit more rounded.
in
be kind of
in
present.
life. Yes, be present. Because I don't think, as much as Henry Bemis, I think, is a protagonist and an innocent character, I think that he has flaws, and his flaw is that he is so obsessed with reading, and while his boss and his wife are mean to him, if he would leave that situation or adjust, he might be more happy. Like, he might be able to
he would definitely
strike a
be more
balance.
happy if he could get out of, like, those two people, especially. I feel like if we haven't gotten to the wife yet. The wife, though, little extreme.
Yes.
All right?
Quite.
Like, there's different ways to just be like, I'd like a little bit more attention. Like, I would like to go do things I like to do. You always want to read. Can we do some other stuff? Like,
Right.
there's definitely different ways to do this. And she just looks like a...
Yes, I mean,
just like
very
one of those
intentionally.
women that's like, ugh, you know.
One of those women.
Well, you know what I mean?
Rachel's
Like, you can
talking
tell
about.
she's like uptight, like mean. There's
Yeah,
words.
she's mean.
There's words.
She's just
I
a
would
mean
use.
person. Bemis goes to leave, but is distracted by a newspaper before he gets admonished again.
Which is
Like,
ridiculous.
Yeah. He just needs to get a job as an editor or something
Go
for
work
like
at the library.
a paper.
Or yeah, he
or
could be
go
an
work at the
editor.
library.
He could be an editor for books.
Yeah, just
That would be the
something
perfect
with
job
books.
for him.
But you're right. He just needs to go become like a librarian or something, which I know requires skill. Like, he can't
Well,
just
of
go
course.
do that. He
But
might have
then
been
at
able to
least-
in 1959.
Yeah, I have
but...
a feeling back then maybe, but like he would be able to help people like find stuff, especially if he's read every goddamn book in like the library. Like he's probably would be like, oh, I know exactly what you need, type of deal.
Yeah,
he'd be very helpful.
Otherwise, become an editor, become a reviewer.
Yes.
This guy in this day and age, he'd have a TikTok and a YouTube channel where he reviews books that he reads all the time.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he'd be making money off of it, but he definitely would have one.
He would have it. Yeah.
And he'd have a community that he'd be able to...
Oh, that's true. He probably would have a backbone
that
of
would
a
appreciate
community.
it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's how he would find him. But
that's the modern
that's the modern version. Yes.
Where it's the
You
same
find your
exact
community.
story, but he has this online community that he talks to, and then the same thing happens, and now he doesn't have that, so then he goes crazy trying to replicate it, like fake it almost or something. I don't know. There's something there.
There's something there. Mm-hmm.
You could redo it.
But is he just
At
like
home...
talking to all the raccoons that were saved because they were like, so he has them all like lined up. And
I've lined up all of you here today to talk about David Copperfield. Exactly what I was thinking. That is some great insight there, Rocket. I can't think of another name for a raccoon.
Stripes? I don't know. Like, I'm just...
Bandit decided to pick Gone Girl this month.
He just puts books in front of each one of them. He has his own little book club of, like, just rats and raccoons and, like, animals that, like, lived through it.
This month we'll be discussing Frankenstein. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Randall the rat picked it out. Randall, can you...
That scamp loves his horrors.
Can you please begin reading chapter 5 for us? Oh, how delightful. At home, the wife shrills for him, like literally shrills for him.
Yes.
And that's the first thing you get from this wife.
Yes.
And then yanks a paper out of his hands.
Yes.
Just to be a bitch. Like, the whole idea is that she is the worst human being you could possibly imagine. Like, you hate this person.
You just kind of hate her automatically, yeah.
The wife yells at him, saying he is sacrificing the art of conversation by doing this, that they don't talk, which again is like, is it just that they don't talk, but is it like,
or is
okay,
he
I
just
don't
not
talk
actually
because
like her anymore?
I don't like you. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Why did you marry her?
Well, you know, they maybe they've been married for a while.
Oh, that's
and they've
true.
just lost the spark, and
That
and
could be it.
And it's
They have
the
nothing to talk
50s.
about. He wants to talk about books, and she just I don't know what she wants to talk about.
He would have been 52-ish at this point, so it's not like he's a young man, so they're not young. They don't have anything to talk about except for the books, and the wife doesn't like books, so what do they have to talk about? This is a couple that should have been divorced.
Oh,
That
yeah,
is
probably.
very, very clear.
Yeah, I would say so.
And she says something about, like, no husband of mine is going to be some bookworm or whatever she says. Henry goes, what, how many husbands do you got? You only got me. Like,
is kind
I
of
don't know if
funny.
he's trying to be cute or
I think
something.
he is. I feel like he is because he giggles when he says it.
Yeah.
He's like,
fair.
oh, but that's kind of funny because it sounds like you're like acting like you have more than one husband. Like, haha.
She says that they're going to play cards tonight at the neighbors, and Henry doesn't want to do it. And look, this is not just because he's nebbish. This is because who the fuck would want to go do this with these people that you don't
I
like?
just want to stay home. He's just an introvert, you know?
Yeah, he's completely introverted. He's fine.
So he might be a little socially awkward, but he's also just like, I just want to stay home and read.
I mean, he does get punished for being antisocial and being
Oh, absolutely.
introverted, for sure.
Yes.
But he just likes he likes his solitude. As
think
I
he
have
does.
stated, Rachel, I think you put it in the trailer for Volume 4. I have no problems being alone.
That's right.
I can find things to do. I can be Henry Bemis. If I can find clean water and food, I would get along for a bit. Probably better than the average person if I can find clean water, food, and a generator. I can probably get along for a bit. Then I'm going to have to decide what I want to do. Which, by the way, would probably be climbing a big building. Because I think that would be at least fun. If you're going to do
I have
it.
no idea how to respond to that.
He is to get dressed so that they can go. And he's like, all right. I can't remember the wife's name. I know he says it at some point, but I can't remember what her name is. But he says, like, okay, like, that's fine. Helen. It's Helen. I knew I would be able to remember it if I, like, said it as Burgess Meredith. He tells Helen, like, he'll get dressed, and he's, that's fine, we'll go. When are we due? And she's like, 15 minutes. So she leaves the room, and he waits a beat before looking for a stash of books, like a fucking alcoholic.
Yes. He
underneath
like
the
hides
couch
them.
cushions. Yeah, like booze. Like he would hide booze.
Right.
It's
But
an
that's
obsession.
so sad, too. That's so sad that he has to
That he
hide
can't
his
have
books.
them. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like, this is not... It's not like he has a hobby that is, like,
He's not
an
like
issue.
He's not
He's
like
not
a gambling man.
addict.
Exactly
We
the
both
one
feel
that I
same
thought
way.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't something where you have to, like, pry this away or, like, make this... Or even, like, coffee, and it's like, no, he has too much coffee or he eats too much junk food or something. It's a fucking
Right.
book. It's not...
Yes.
He just wants to read. And this
Right.
world is so mean to this man.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, is the point. That is the allegory, I suppose, or the fable here. Just this world won't let this man do something that is innocent to do because it believes that you should be doing this instead or whatever.
Right. Yes. They have it built out for you, what you have to be.
He puts the book in his jacket pocket and he joins the wife. And the wife's like, what do you got there, Henry?
Oh, she knew.
Yeah.
She was ready for this.
Well, she was, because she reaches in and pulls out a book and he's like, how did that get there? I didn't have the coat on, so... And it's a book of modern poetry. And she asks if he'd like to read her some. And he's like, are you serious?
He gets this is upsetting to me. He gets so excited. He's like, you actually want to participate in something I enjoy. And he goes, I would love to read you wrote poetry. It would be romantic. It would be fun.
Yes. Flip the genders on this, and this would be very, very illustrative of abuse.
It's
like,
horrible.
This wife is an abusive spouse.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely.
Absolutely. This is so upsetting.
Burgess Meredith he does this a couple of times in this story where he lists off a bunch of things.
Yes.
Book related. So he lists off a bunch of poets. And then he's like, oh, there's so many wonderful things we can talk about. And he realizes that she marked up the whole book so he can't do it.
Just like scribbles on every single page.
This woman is insane.
That is so just psychotic.
It's unhinged.
Who does that?
Is what it is.
It's absolutely unhinged.
And if it is supposed to be an allegory
And she's
for...
smiling this whole time like a
Yes.
like a crime lord, like
like a crime lord.
I don't know. I couldn't think of the
It's
word.
like, this is the Fahrenheit 451 universe, and they've banned books.
That's what it feels like.
If this is even supposed to be an allegory for, like, a worse habit, and it is supposed to be, like, booze or something, this is still insane. This is not how you get someone help.
No.
That would be even funnier, though, if there was a scene where she's like, Henry, we can't... Your family misses you. You need to come back to us.
That would make more sense.
Well, that would make
would
make him more of a like... That would make him more complicated, but it would
that
make
would make it more
less...
complicated, but it would make a bit more sense. Like,
It
I
would
feel
make him
like
too much on the edge of not Cadwallader. What was the other guy's Bedwetter or whatever his name was? Bedecker.
well, he had nothing for him. This guy's at least like, you know, kind of like, oh, he's a little like
He's trying to be
adorable.
nice. He just wants
Yes.
his time to read.
But it would also like it would just show like, okay, you are making this more of an addiction
Yes.
than a hobby or something you enjoy. If like his family was like, okay, we need to have like words about this because we do miss you, and you're like not
like
getting
all you do when you come home
this
is
is
read.
all
you
you
don't pay
do.
attention to us.
And
yeah.
honestly, I kind of wish there was a line where she would be like, what if like one day you don't even get to speak to me about your books? Like something like that would be so good because it's just like that foreshadowing.
Right. Instead, what it
All
is,
she means is I'm going to divorce you, but I think
well, what they're depicting more so is that this woman is insane and he's a spineless weirdo.
Yes.
And that it's a world that hates the concept of reading.
The concept of reading and art and all of that.
She says a grown man should not read this doggerel, and I was like, is that some sort of 50s term?
It's gotta
It is
be.
not.
Oh.
It is doggerel is poetry that is irregular in rhythm and in rhyme, and often deliberately for burlesque or comic effect.
There
so I
is
think she's...
no way that woman would know that word.
Yeah, that is a total Serling word. I think it is supposed to be, though, that, like, he's reading this... It's crap. It's like saying... Yeah, it's drivel. It's drivel. What parts? The drivel parts. That is one of my favorite moments of all time.
What is that from?
That episode of Seinfeld where they meet Elaine's dad, and George is trying to impress him by saying he read his book, and Elaine's dad goes, "It's drivel," and he goes, "Well, maybe some parts." And he goes, "Which parts?" And he's like, "The drivel parts." What were we talking about? Oh yeah, no, I think that the point with the doggerel comment then is that she thinks it's like. It's an allegory for the Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is sci-fi. This is garbage. Why would you do anything with sci-fi? You can't talk about anything with sci-fi. It's not sophisticated. It's the same thing with saying doggerel poetry. This is comics. This is something that doesn't have substance. So at the same time, though, I could get that if he was really into sci-fi or something like that, but he's just into reading. Like, if he was like, why don't you read the paper? It's more intellectual or something like that.
Right.
That could have been another way to, like...
This one reads everything. So it's not like he has one specific thing that he's, like, super into reading either.
Right.
So if it was, like, sci-fi books or poetry books or something very specific, but he's just, like, anything...
I really do think that Black Mirror or something really could take this and take this same concept, give it credit, make it...
I feel like... I don't know. Sometimes I go, no, they shouldn't. I don't know if they should.
You know what? I agree.
It makes me nervous.
I'm just saying pay homage to it. Like,
you
could see a Goosebumps book could do this exact same story.
That's the one I could see
take
actually
it into
doing it.
And take it into a different direction than this, and have a different take on the same type of themes, and get a similar, like an allegory out of it.
That's fair.
That's
fair.
all
I
I'm
could
saying.
See that happen.
Like, take the core of this and do it. Don't redo this.
Yeah, don't redo this.
But take the core of it.
Make it something.
Like when, Taming of the Shrew, or like Romeo and Juliet, or like when any of those stories get redone in a modern context, that's what I'm saying you could do with this.
Of course.
Yes,
that
I'm
Romeo and Juliet
I'm comparing
modern
this
one.
to Shakespeare. We've got a Taming of the Shrew modern telling on the list upcoming here.
Oh, that's true.
We'll find out about a year from now. So, or
Woo.
6 months
Or
from now.
sooner.
So when she starts ripping these pages apart, and it's just that he hates that these people cannot appreciate the arts, but he can't really do anything about it because he's so skittish and so meek.
Yes.
And she says this is such a waste of time that she begins to rip the pages out. He actually drops his glasses on the floor as he goes to pick up the pages.
Right.
But it's the floor, so the glasses are fine. Mm-hmm. That in mind.
Right.
That is foreshadowing, quite literally. Mm-hmm. And then he gets back up and he goes, "Why, Helen? Why do you do these things?" Which is so sad. And then
it is, because that means that she's done other things.
And she goes, "Because I'm married to a fool." And it's like, what an asshole. This person
Honestly.
is such a jerk.
She's horrible.
She is such an abuser. Realistically, this man has grounds for divorce. I mean, I think it's the 1959, so you probably can just go divorce your wife without her knowing at this point. Well, I mean, you can do that. You should be able to do that. You should be able to divorce your spouse without them consenting to the divorce. My point is that I think a man could just be like, "I'm going to drown that woman if I don't divorce her." And they'd be like, "Well, you have the option, sir." Yeah. He'd have the option for it.
Yeah,
He
the
cleans
option
up all
to drown her. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
He cleans up all the
Probably
papers.
should have,
In 1959, probably. But a decade later, he probably lost that. But at that time. He cleans up the papers and laments. The next day at work, forgetting or uncaring about what the boss told him, he heads to the vault to read for lunch.
Yes.
He does it sneakily, though. He realizes he's not supposed to do it. Looks back and forth as he walks down the stairs into the vault section, and no one's there, so he gets in and he reads. And he reads pleasantly in the vault. He's eating his lunch, and then he reads the paper. And he picks up the paper, and it warns of an H-bomb's ability to destroy the Earth. This is, of course, in the middle of the Cold War. This is the height of the Cold War when Russia was at its, or the Soviet Union was at its highest powers, so it had the ability to strike fear around the world that if the U.S. and Russia went to war, the world would blow up.
Right.
Which is
Absolutely.
all over the Twilight Zone. It's literally every other episode has something about that.
Of course.
The watch suddenly... Well, actually, first what happens is this page flips, and then the watch that he has, because he has like this little like pocket watch, so he can know when his lunch
Yeah, like what
break's
time.
going to be over. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's clocks all over this episode.
Of course.
The watch breaks,
Yes.
and then this huge explosion happens.
And
The
everything
sets-
is like rumbling and jarring. And he tries to get up, but then he falls back down.
The audio commentary on this one is done by this guy that wrote the Twilight Zone Compendium or something like that. I can't remember the name of it exactly. He said that the set, they actually had on hydraulics so that it literally shook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was like, why didn't you... But you can't really tell the difference between the camera shaking and then like them actually shaking it. But
maybe more so for his acting.
Probably. Yeah. Probably for his acting, and probably... It's probably one of those things where it's like, well, you might not know that, but your brain does. So if they didn't do it that way, it would look worse.
You could tell the difference between this jarring in the background and jarring in front of you.
Yeah. I thought that was a pretty good effect. And like you said, he does pass out on the ground when it's over. His glasses don't break, but I guess that's because they're so thick. Like, why did the watch break, but not the glasses? And I'm guessing that's just because the watch had way less
That's an interesting thought.
Glass.
Yeah, usually they have some thin glass on those. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
That it would be, that's why the glass broke. Okay.
He gets up, he awakens, and he's stumbling around, and he finds the vault door, and he pushes it open. A fairly good effect here, he puts the glasses on, and you get his point of view, so it's all blurry, and you can't see anything, and then he puts the glasses on, and there's just destruction everywhere.
That is how I see, by the way. That blur that he saw, blobs... I understood
that.
That
close?
I felt for the man. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
You want to know something about me, Kevin? That's how close.
Oh, all right. For those at home, Rachel has her hand almost touching her nose. So
it's not that close. Maybe it was.
I can get by without my glasses on.
I can't. I mean, I
But-
could, but I can't.
Yeah, I can get by, but I definitely can't read anything from afar and only see shapes. Like, I can't see, like, expressions and stuff. I'm like people's faces if they're farther away. But I can definitely, like, walk around and stuff and be fine. He goes out and it is eerily quiet. And there is no score at this part. And the score has been, like, more uplifting before this, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but it hasn't been the eerie Twilight Zone
Right.
score, because I don't think you know, like, imagine watching this for the first time. You would not have known this is where it was going.
Right. I
Like,
think that's the idea. They wanted you to really feel like, oh my god, this is what happens.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you would have known where this is going, but, like, there's no indication until he picks up the newspaper that this
Right.
is where this would be going. Parts of the structure are broken down as he walks through it. I first wrote, oh, there's no dead bodies, though, but then you do see the boss's
You
dead
do.
hand, so you do get a dead body. Mm-hmm. A radio or something goes off, and it turns out it was a recorder. His
Yes.
boss was dictating a memo for his secretary to write, and you see the dead hand, and you see the recorder, and then the recorder, like, sparks.
Right, it
bit.
pops. Yeah.
Yeah. He exits that room and he keeps moving along in this eerie silence, and he's inspecting everything, and he makes it
I feel
outside.
like there should be
and,
more fires and smoke.
well, in reality, there would be fires, there would be smoke, and he'd be dead in about 2 minutes from
Well,
radioactive
Yeah, because he came out way too soon.
poisoning. Yeah. He would curl on the
Well, I guess he was
sidewalk and
passed out
die.
for a while. He could have been passed out till like the next day, even. We don't know.
That's true. And I mean, I think that people overestimate how long the radiation would last, depending on which kind of bomb it is and like
You're supposed to overestimate.
exposed it would be. Well, no, I know. But like, it would only be like a couple of weeks. You could probably get away with it, right?
I think you can get away with coming out for a specific amount of time. Then you don't want to be like out in it for long. You don't want to be
Right.
exposed to it for too
Right.
long. So I guess like if you were hiding in a bunker and you're like, okay, we got to move and get the hell out of here to like the next safe zone, like then
Yeah.
at that point, yeah, it's probably okay for you to come out just to get away.
if it's
get further
one
away.
bomb. If it's something where it's like a wasteland, like bombs have gone off and it's just like crazy. I guess like the
Oh, yeah,
the
then you're
whole
kinda
area could just be
screwed.
permeated. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
But-
probably gonna have to wait at least a couple months.
you have to take at least like, I mean, it could be years or something. Like, I mean, if it's like Chernobyl disaster where it's like you cannot be in that area
Oh, yeah,
because of it. Like
Absolutely.
that land is unusable, so you can't even be there. That kind of thing is the worst because it's just in the ground.
Oh yeah, think about everything is contaminated. Vegetation, water, everything.
I think that the crux that you have to put this on is that whatever bomb was hit by the Soviets or the US or whatever, it is not one that it's almost like one of those like bombs that I don't think exists, but one would that would do damage to living cells or something and minimal damage to others so that it doesn't actually permeate radiation. It
I
just
don't
kind of
know.
wipes stuff out.
Oh sure.
Like-
I mean, I guess at that point it would be something that does like electric stuff, like the electric
Yeah.
Like,
the electric kind of
radio
thing.
stuff. Like I don't, everything like that. It would have to be very specific for that.
But
it would
I
still
guess-
cause a lot of devastation. But
Yes. But I guess it is supposed to be kind of it's a fantasy. It's a world where this could happen. So as he walks through, it becomes kind of Where Is Everybody a bit, where it's just this man that is by himself and there's nothing else there. And Serling comes in with narration in the middle of the episode, and he says that the time crawls as he looks for a spark in the ashes of a dead world. And we get a montage of Bemis walking around. He walks around the town and he finds nothing. There's monuments to what was here but is no more. He shouts for his wife when he finds his home. He is able to walk back to his house, but it's
which
of
was
course
just
gone.
dust and rubble.
He does shout Helen. He does
does.
try to find her.
Yeah.
And then he spends 8 hours going through this graveyard. This is where I think a lot of people forget this part of the episode.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think a lot of people just go, oh, good, they're all gone. And he starts wiping his hands of it. And it's like,
Yes.
no, This man goes through the fucking ringer
Oh, yeah.
of realizing he cannot find another living being.
Exactly.
And it's devastating him.
Absolutely.
And you see that with...
And he's like,
with
and why
Burgess
am I
Meredith's
alive? Like,
performance.
why do I get to live and everybody else around me is gone?
Yes. So I think that makes it a lot more interesting than just what people remember, which I think is the ending, because it's someone that is losing hope and despair. And granted, there is part of a be careful what you wish for moment, because he just wanted to be alone to be able to read. And now he is alone, but now that he's alone, he is the only man alive. But at the same time, it is this devastation to him that even though he didn't like these people, he is alone.
Yes.
So Bemis talks out loud for us. He says that they're all dead. Everyone's dead except me. He posits that it was the vault that saved his life. And he says he's not sure he wants to be alive.
The thing of it is, though, the thing of it is, I'm not at all sure that I want to be alive.
Which, I mean, that's pretty heady for 1950s
Absolutely.
television, I would think.
Absolutely.
He finds a grocery store, and he starts packing food and sorting through food. So he's got his area where there's a bunch of food now.
Right.
And he says that there's enough food that will last for years. So they take care of that, because obviously, like I said, you need to find food and you need to find water. And they're
Food,
just like,
shelter,
he's
and
got
water.
it. He's got it. Like, forget about that. He's got it. Who cares? Move on.
Right. It's not the point.
He decides to sleep on this dirty couch while smoking, mind you.
Oh, of course.
And outside in the middle of, like, this deserted wasteland.
Well, he doesn't see, like, a place to go in. Where's he going to go in?
Back to the vault.
Very true. Very true. He could immediately just go back to the bank vault, yes. Because that was, like, fine.
Yeah, that was fine. If you want to drag this dirty couch in or something that you can, like, a mattress or something, do that. But, like, especially because you don't know what else is out there.
Yeah, you have
so
no idea
sleeping
what's
out
going on.
this couch while smoking a cigarette, mind you, set the couch on fire or something.
I mean, he drops it, but he drops it into, like, the dirt, so
Yeah,
it wasn't onto
he's
the
very
actual
reckless,
fabric.
But he's like, fucking cares.
I don't think he
I'm the only
cares,
person
though. Like, yeah,
alive.
if I, like, who cares if I, like, burn to death? Like, I don't think he
like, I
cares.
don't fucking care. So he says that, is this really what it's going to be like every day, where I'm just going to be, like, sitting around eating and smoking and read the same half a newspaper over and over? And he says that the worst part is being alone. So I think he actually is learning a lesson here about,
Yes.
like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
I jokingly wrote in my notes, sounds good to me, when he said that he'd have, that's all he'd be able to do. He wakes up the next morning, he looks for his glasses, because he had put the glasses on top of the couch
Yes.
that he slept on. It's good acting here, too, because he makes sure he needs the glasses.
He does the, where are they? I can't, I have to feel for them. Yes.
Doing the old Velma.
Yeah, look, I have done that. All right, so if I, that's how blind I am. I may have dropped my glasses, and then I have to be very careful. And, like, oh, there they are.
Oh, there they are. Very amusing. He sees a car, and this is where we get some of our honk porn.
Yep, more
where
honking.
He tries to start it, the horn works, but he can't get it to run.
Yes.
Which means that he can't get out of this area, because if he were to travel, he would have to travel on foot.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And he's wearing 1950s attire, so he's
That's
wearing
typical.
terrible
That's
shoes and
normal.
loafers.
That's normal for all of them, though. They all go
do you
hiking
mean?
like that and stuff.
Do
The
you
other guy
think-
walked up like a mile and a half to get to his house. Like,
That's true. That's
know?
that was walking distance for him.
See?
Yeah.
so maybe.
I guess so, but these people's feet have to just be in terrible shape.
Maybe they're not actually as terrible as you think. Maybe they're really nice cobbled shoes. They're very comfortable. I don't know.
You know what?
I
These
would be
shoes
stuck
from
in
the-
heels, just like we still are today.
That's true. Yes. All right, now I have to look up fake sponsors of 1950s shoes and see
Like
if
a
they're
cobbler?
somehow comfortable. These shoes are very comfortable. So comfortable that I can smoke this fine Cuban cigar at the same time that I get it shined. He starts losing it a bit, and he says he's in solitude and hasn't had much solitude. But now that he's in solitude, he's like, I don't know if I
too
wanted
much
this much
solitude.
solitude.
Right.
You know where he should have actually slept if he didn't want to sleep on that dirty couch was the car. Like, the car would have been a
think
place to
it's
sleep.
true.
Like, there's so
Yeah.
many better places to sleep than this.
I mean, okay, look, you call it a dirty couch, but it's only dirty because something blew it up, all right? It's not like it's like an abandoned couch in like an alleyway.
we don't know that.
We don't know that, but my assumption is that it was
Yes,
a couch
my
that
assumption
got
is
blown
it
up.
was in an apartment, yes.
Maybe it was his couch. We don't know.
So then, as he starts losing it and he starts talking to himself, he says that he can occupy his mind and his time by thinking of things or going over things. He has food, and that is fortunate. But as he does this, he starts screaming for help because he realizes that he's, like, all alone. This is actually a really good little monologue here by Burgess Meredith, because he's like, I have my food, and that's fortunate, and
You could just see the despair.
Yeah, it's like overcoming him, and then he just starts screaming for help. He's just going, help, help! It's a very creepy scene. I can't do that too loud. I don't want, like, my neighbors to think I actually need help. And
have enough food, and I'm really very fortunate. Yes, I'm really extremely fortunate. Help! 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 Someone, please! Someone, please! Please, someone!
it's kind of a creepy scene. I think that the score could have made it better
Yeah.
if it was a more concentrated score on what the tone of this scene was, but it's still very well acted, in my opinion.
No, I definitely agree.
He goes by a sporting goods counter of stuff. I don't know if this could have
Yeah,
been
there's
in
like a sign that says sporting goods and
yeah, some sort of store, and he knocks over a cabinet. He just, like, trips on it because there's, shit all over the ground from
Right.
this explosion.
of course.
In the case of the cabinet, he finds a gun, and he contemplates suicide.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And he says if it weren't for the loneliness or the sameness, if he had something to do, he could get by. Like,
Right.
So he's saying, like, I can do the typical, like, okay, I have to prepare food, I have to find these
Yes.
things, I have to do this.
The daily tasks.
But there's loneliness there. There's just nothing to do outside of that. So he's just stuck with his thoughts, and eventually that's going to drive him mad, and he knows
Absolutely.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So he picks up the gun and he says, I think I'll be forgiven for this. For
Yep.
the way things are. I should be forgiven for this. And he points the gun at his head.
Yes.
And I was shocked they could do this in the 50s.
Honestly, though, yes.
Because I really thought that would have
very
been like
blatant.
a censorship thing. Even in the commentary, they mentioned that Serling was very convincing. So even if the censors may have said, we're not sure about this, pointing the gun at the head, he could have convinced them that in this situation, by saying, like, he'll be forgiven and all this stuff, and
Right.
make it very clear that it's not something that you should do, which you
Right.
shouldn't, but it's not something that you should do unless you're in the situation where you're the last man on Earth and you're going to go insane. So I guess he might have just been able to get away with it because he's Rod fucking Serling or something, and it's just like, I'm sorry, boys, but he's that damn good. Let the
Just too
man
damn
march.
good.
Not just talk about suicide, but he has a man,
He
a
went to do
well-known
it.
actor, point a gun to his head. In this,
Yes.
on national television.
Right.
But as he goes to do it, which we don't even know, like, I guess
I don't even know if that thing would
couldn't-
have bullets in it.
That's
so-
what I was thinking. Like, you could have had him click it, and then the bullet's not there. Actually, you know
Yeah.
what the ending could have been? The ending could have been he pulls
Oh,
the gun
no.
back out,
No, that's so much worse.
and he goes to and he pulls the trigger, and it clicks because there are no
Oh my
bullets in it.
god.
That could have been, if you really wanted to fuck this character, that could
Oh,
have been
that's
the way
so
to go.
mean.
So as he goes to do it, he sees a sign that says public library. And he drops the gun and he runs toward it. And there are these huge steps. This library is fucking gigantic. I don't know what city this is supposed
Yeah,
to be.
I mean, it's like a city library, so you got those,
Yeah.
the fun steps to go up to it.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
No, I mean, it definitely
It is
has
kind of it's like a crazy steps, though. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm assuming this is supposed to be like the New York Public Library, like Ghostbusters Library, or even like...
Yeah.
They almost look like the Philadelphia stairs, like by
They
the
really
Rocky
made them
statue. Which,
fancy.
yeah, very fancy stairs.
Mm-hmm.
On the way up the stairs to the library, there's a giant clock.
Yes.
So it must have been like the clock tower for the library that was knocked over. And then he sees books have been flung everywhere. And he gets excited by all the books. It's just a treasure trove for a guy like this. It's his salvation. Yes. Because now he has something to do. And he plans out years of reading. Now.
Yeah, he salvages what, like, books are okay.
Yeah.
I think is the idea, too.
He should take all of these books to the vault. Inside. Because it still could rain.
Oh, yeah. Could destroy everything.
Destroy all of this stuff. He just has them all stacked up. Maybe he's planning to stack them up. He's going to read some.
Yeah, I think he's just organizing.
And then he's gonna start taking them in or something. He plans out all these years of reading, which I guess, you know what? You read everything that you can get your hands on, and
absolutely.
Then when you run out.
Yeah,
or you reread them. Because that is shelf life,
folks.
And
re-listen and
you
re-listen.
You reread, you rewatch.
Yes, you do what you enjoy. If he finds a book that sucks, just throw it away.
Doesn't go on the shelf.
Doesn't have to be on his shelf. Doesn't make his shelf.
Which in this case should be the vault.
Yes.
But he finds all these books. He lists them all off. He sits on the steps. There's no score at this point. And he opens a book to start his journey into shelf life.
Now. Yeah, he does say this. The best thing of all is there's time now.
Yes, there's time now. As he looks and he touches the big clock.
Mm-hmm.
He grabs the big clock, and he like pats it almost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he says, "This is all the time I need and want. Time enough at last." And he goes to grab the book that he set down.
Yes.
And slips a little bit, and his glasses fall off. And this is the spoiler alert, folks. And his glasses break.
They shatter.
Yes.
All right? They don't just break. The glass in those shattered.
And he picks them up. He feels for them. He finally finds them. He picks them up. And the lenses are completely broken. And he goes, "That's not fair."
That's not fair. That's not fair at all. There was time now. There was all the time I needed. That's not fair. That's not fair.
And the camera zooms away as he cries, and we get the closing narration from Serling. But before you do that, Rachel, there had to be some way for him to continue to read, right?
I've always thought about that. I've always thought about could there be like another eyeglasses place like somewhere around here? Could he have found like somebody with reading glasses? Could he have found like a magnifying glass? Anything?
Which he's gonna have a hard time walking around.
Blind. Yes, yeah. It's all so blurry. He probably would have hurt himself or like killed himself trying to just walk around.
Yeah,
because he was already stumbling with glasses.
You're not gonna think about finding a backup or a magnifying glass or something like that if you do have this issue, because why would you? You're excited about the book, so you immediately went into that because it gave your mind something to do. So it's not like you're thinking, oh, you know what, though, I better find a replace. Like, I always think about that whenever I think about, like, what if this all crumbled? And it would be like, I have a pair of glasses, and I have contact lenses that usually last me for a maximum of a year. So I would either have to really portion out that contact lenses or hope that I can secure those glasses in the best way, shape, or form, because if either of those go, that's it. It's what I always find fascinating about like shows like The Walking Dead or something, because it's like, are all of you like half blind?
Yeah, I know. I have always thought that too because of having glasses my entire life. I'm just like, I'm not a person who wakes up and the world is clear. All right, so. How are all of you getting by? Like, I want to see some people squinting. That's why sometimes in those types of shows, I have seen people with glasses. And it's like, yes, thank you. At least the glasses are represented in this. Because it's just kind of one of those things. Like, I just couldn't imagine how this would go.
This episode, of course, goes back and it ties into Arthur the Aardvark with Arthur's eyes.
That's right. That's
now
right.
I just want a shot for shot remake of this with Arthur, and instead of a wife, it's just DW being
That's right.
mean to him.
Just being mean in general. Yep.
There was time now. Be great.
It's one of
You know
that
what?
would just literally be one of his like fantasy like, and then he like
That's what I was
thinks
about
about
to
it.
say. I kind of wonder if Arthur has
Have
done
they
this.
done it? Because that would be
Like
amazing.
it feels like it could be an Arthur bit. Rachel, what is the closing monologue that we get from Rod Serling?
The best laid plans of mice and men, and Henry Bemis, the small man in the glasses, who wanted nothing but time. Henry Bemis, now just a part of a smashed landscape, just a piece of the rubble, just a fragment of what man has deeded to himself. Mr. Henry Bemis, in the Twilight Zone.
That is the end of Time Enough at Last. One of the most famous endings of the Twilight Zone. It went through osmosis of it. The Family Guy one is probably the first one I saw if it wasn't the Simpsons one, where, like I said, it's literally like, I'm the only brain cell left. Well, at least I have my books. And then the glasses break for no reason, and he just goes, there was time now. That's not fair. Like, it's literally the same thing.
Exactly.
Looking at some of these different things that there were themes of this, of course, is solitude and isolation. There's also the idea of nuclear war ending humanity, and I think that is overall one of the more prevalent things that you're supposed to get out of this too, which is, look, Henry Bemis thought that this is what he wanted. He got what he wanted even more so by having all the books.
Yes.
But in the end, one little thing goes wrong, that's the end of it.
Right.
And it almost seems like a smaller allegory for the bigger picture of, if one little thing goes wrong, we could bomb this world and it would be over.
Right.
So I think that there's actually, he's tying it back in, or the author, the original author, I don't know, because again, I've never read the thing, but if Lynn Venable's story did this, it's all tying it back into like this small guy gets what he wants, but in the end it really just turns out to be the worst thing, and it's again a cautionary tale of don't blow this fucking planet up, you idiots.
Yes.
And it is, again, another one is dependence on technology, because if you took this into modern times and you were to get rid of the books,
Yes.
or you were to get rid of your Blu-rays or your DVDs,
Right.
and you didn't have the modern convenience of Wi-Fi and streaming and a structured society to be able to feed this entertainment and this art to you, you wouldn't have it. And you would have no way to get it.
Right.
And there's only one way, Rachel, to have it.
There is. It's true.
And that's to have a shelf.
Physical media.
And that, friends, is why Time Enough at Last is a main event on Shelf Life. Rachel, you want me to go first?
You can go first. That's, I guess, we're going back and
Yeah,
forth.
we're
It's
going
your
back and forth.
turn. It's your turn to tell
right.
us, Kevin, whether this belongs on your shelf.
So we both talked about how we've seen this before. We've seen it multiple times. We knew the twist, we knew the ending, we knew the story. I think it still works when what happens to him at the end. It's such a wicked twist, what happens to him.
Yes.
It's such a cynical, mean thing to happen to this character.
Yeah.
I still understand that is the point. It's a Twilight Zone. They don't all end happily. A lot of them end in this very cautious, like, shit happens style. It's the cynical tone of Rod Serling. And I think that has proliferated into pop culture, into other anthologies. We said Goosebumps, but Goosebumps does the same thing. No matter how nice or bad the character is, some shit happens at the end.
That's right.
Tales
You
from
know,
the
the
Crypt
little
would
brother
do
puts
it.
the damn mask back on. It's just the way it goes.
Black Mirror does it. Tales from the Crypt
Yes.
would do it. All these anthology things that are parables or fables that go back to Twilight Zone. And then Twilight Zone, of course, is from Rod Serling growing up reading anthology series and science fiction and horror and stuff as
Even
well.
like the Brothers Grimm, those stories.
Brothers Grimm, yeah. It is a trope in the way that we tell stories, is we want this...
And to learn something.
We want to learn something. We want to be able to cautiously remember in our heads, but remember what happened to Henry Bemis. So that is interesting. you still feel bad when those glasses
absolutely.
break. You still almost like want to pause it and not watch it because you know it's coming.
Yeah.
When the glasses break. I think he just had to find something that would work for him. I hope that he does, that he finds something that would work.
Yeah.
And that he's able to still live his life.
It would be good.
This is one of those episodes that is like the iconic story of science fiction and of that time period, about the Cold War, about reading, about anti-intellectualism, about all of this stuff. So it still resonates. The acting is great by Burgess Meredith, of course. And even the scenes of the creepy desertion in the wasteland, which I don't think a lot of people remember how much there is of that.
Yes.
And how much Bemis really starts to lose his mind. So I think all of that is very good. There were parts of this that we talked about, Rachel, where they could have taken it in different ways. It would have been interesting. They're much like The Lonely. Like we talked about how in both of these episodes, like, well, if they could have done this or they could have done that. But to me, that's just us breaking stuff down and saying, like, how could we even improve it? Or are there different alternative versions of this that you could do that could make this interesting in different ways?
Right.
Ultimately, for me, it is on the shelf. It definitely has shelf life because of the influence that has had, because it is still impactful, because it is a very, very good episode of television, in my opinion. I think this is a great little episode. It's something that, of course, I'm going to come back to. I don't think it loses its impact. It loses some after you've seen it once, but I don't think it really loses a ton of its impact. Yeah, so for me, shelf life, definitely. Rachel?
So I agree that it's very influential, and that but it's not just influential for influential like sake. It's actually something that still works, and I think still works for today, and it still can be put to all of the different things that we've been talking about. And I mean, they could have easily been like, oh, you know, when he fell over in the vault and there was just like something weird happened, he just, you know, got a concussion and now he woke up and it all wasn't real, but he learned a lesson. Like, it could have been something like that.
Yeah.
And I think this is way more impactful, the way that they just stopped on it's broken. That's it. That hurts. You can just absolutely feel it, and knowing the story and knowing what was coming, I still felt it, and so that's to me it is actually very influential. So it is also on my shelf, and I would come back to this, and I love that there's so much influence on pop culture, so you see that all over the place. I do love that.
I'm glad that this one has stuck around because it deserves to, in my opinion.
In your humble opinion.
In my humble opinion.
Yes.
In my honest truth of an opinion.
Right.
I'm glad that it's stuck around.
Of course.
So that is Time Enough at Last. Cross it off the list. It is on the shelf. How about that, Rachel? We did 4 Twilight Zone episodes here in the last subject of volume 4. 3 of the 4 made it onto the shelf.
It's true.
I truly thought all 4 were going to be on the shelf, but I've completely forgot that I did not remember that Escape Clause was going to disappoint me in that way. I really did not. But those other 3 are very classic for different ways. They really are. So yes, that segment of the Twilight Zone, and now we are able to escape the Twilight Zone, I think.
That's right.
If that door will open over
Have
there,
we done
can
it?
finally get out.
Can we?
At least for now.
Should we try it?
We'll try it. Try it.
Okay. All right.
Rachel's opening the door. She's opened it. She pushed it. Oh, thank God. Oh, great. It's just the car again. We have to go back on the journey of pop culture.
Darn it. I just wanted a nap.
Hang on. There is a note.
There's another note? How are there always all these notes? Who's leaving these?
You can take a break, but remember, there's much more to come on this journey through pop culture. Well, that's nice.
Oh, that's actually a good one. I'll take it.
So, Rachel, I guess that means that we have wrapped up Volume 4 of Shelf Life. We have completed it. We can put our stamp of approval on it. We have crossed off 10 or so subjects on the list there. Maybe not that many. Maybe more like 8 or 9. I can't remember. We have crossed off some subjects on the list. Any thoughts about Volume 4 in general?
This wasn't.
Have you learned something today?
I learned something today. I feel like we went through a lot, and we went through a lot of different subjects that somehow connected, which was kind of awesome, you know? And I think we had a lot of good ones this time around, you know, that just...
We went through space and time.
We did do a lot of space and time and
mutants,
bears.
Ian McKellen.
Mutants, that's true.
Dictatorships led by pigs.
Right, yes.
Multiple times somehow.
People coming out of, like, vaults and garbage cans and...
Garbage cans?
Rita Repulsa's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting about that. We really did cover quite a lot.
We covered a lot.
We had some large subjects that we had to cross off
really
the list in
was.
this one. And I really think that this was... Oh, wait. Hang on. That note had something on the back of it. Take a break now, but the next time the quantity and quality will be greater than ever.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
what that means.
I don't know.
Oh.
I'm a little concerned.
Well, that means that for Volume 5, we're doing an extra large version of Shelf Life.
Well, less concerned, more excited now.
So there's going to be even more subjects. So we don't know what they'll be in store for us for Volume 5. But this one, I thought that there were a lot of big subjects. For those that are finding us new here, go back and look at all.
You got a lot you can go back to now.
4 of these volumes now. The first 3, of course, have had their stamp of approval on them. But Volume 4, of course, we've got X-Men, Major League, some Doctor Who, the first episodes of Recess, Power Rangers, Arthur, E.T., which was a huge episode, Animal Farm, another big episode.
Philadelphia Experiment.
The Philadelphia...
Da
Who could
Vinci
forget the
Code.
Philadelphia Experiment?
And Paddington Bear. Paddington.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We went through a lot in the past time here of recording this volume, Rachel. I think that we had some fun. So, of course, Shelf Life will continue. we are not going to end here. It will continue. Review the show. Find subscribe,
share it.
Let everyone that you know, tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your boss, tell your students, tell your teachers, tell your neighbors, tell your clergy,
Tell your kids.
tell your kids,
Tell your dogs.
tell your dogs, tell your aunts and uncles, whoever it is, tell your enemies.
Yeah, it's true.
We do appreciate everyone listening for the show. If you have any suggestions, critiques, or anything like that, make sure to let us know if they're constructive, or if you just want to let us know what you enjoy about the show so that we keep doing it. That would be great too. We want to make sure that this goes out to as many people as possible, not because I want that. I'm actually terrified about people listening to it. More for that as a community you can enjoy these episodes.
Yes.
Because as I have stated, and I think Rachel doesn't agree as much, she actually wants people to enjoy these episodes. But for me, these are for me. So I'm doing this for me. But if other people enjoy it too, great. And as always, if you have angry critiques to make,
if you're like doing something non-constructive, if you're gonna be a jerk just to be a jerk, if you're doing any of that,
instead of actually saying any of it, instead donate either your time or your money to a charity in the name of Shelf Life. That is the better way to use your time and your energy. And it really is.
Because there's time.
Yeah. There is time now. There's always time now.
There's always time to do good instead of bad.
We can always find some charities. I think Rachel is an advocate for stuff like St. Jude's.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
always a fan of Pause.
Yep.
Or the ASPCA. And
Not One More. That's always a good one.
And there's a lot of good ones out there. Rachel and I stumble upon them at different conventions and things like that as well. If you see stickers or you see merch of Shelf Life, we'll come out with merch here or there, I think, one of these days.
I think
if
that'd
we
be
get enough
fun.
people that listen to the show.
Do you have a favorite line from the show? Might go on a shirt.
Might go on a shirt. Yeah, if we get enough people, we might be able to make some Shelf Life merch for sure. We had.
Because I want it. That's for me. I could care less. But
Right.
that's for me.
That's for me. So until next time, are about to go on our vacation. Where are we going? Do we want to
I don't.
go
Well, I mean, I don't know. Should we get the map out?
I
and
suggest
see
we
where
should
we want to go.
Well,
We could just do something random.
something random.
Yeah.
We have
Be kinda
paper
fun.
maps, so because we're old.
That's right. Well, I thought that'd be more fun. You just
That's
got it's physical media, Kevin.
Okay, so we can either go to That's right. We can either go to, what does this say? Far, far away? The fuck is that?
I don't. Why? What? That's an odd
Cairo?
one.
Cairo's on here.
Okay, interesting.
England,
that could be kind of fun.
course, because we
Of
just keep
course.
going to England. New York
I don't know
is
how
on
that
here.
keeps happening.
In more England. Chicago is on here. It looks like Los Angeles is on here as well. Well, we'll figure it out. But
Okay.
maybe for now we'll just go find a beach or something, and then we'll continue that journey. But until then, I have been Kevin,
And I'm Rachel.
and this has been Shelf Life. We will see you next time in Volume 5 for an extra large helping of the truth.
You will recall, Bemis, the young lady who took considerable exception to this and tried to hit you with her umbrella.
Yes, I remember that. It's just that I never got a chance to tell her that I was only looking to see who she voted for.